Where's the chat? Is that the chat?
Yeah, it's in Cranky Lawyer.
Oh, hold on a second here. Let me. So I just did link. Do you see it? I said link.
Let's see. Wait a minute. Give me 1 second. I'll resend it. Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, guys, I have with me Elizabeth Beck. I am sorry I didn't give you guys more heads up of notice. But I'm going to take her when I get her because I think her and her husband have done something absolutely amazing. They should get all the credit in the world for going through with it and putting themselves through the hazard of it. Elizabeth, please tell everyone hello.
Hi, everyone. I know this is a little bit of an impromptu interview. Before the start, Jamal was telling me about his huge software project that was driving him crazy today, and then we talked about how nightmarish debugging software can be. Not that I know anything about it, but I did take one college class, and that makes me an expert. That makes me an expert on software now.
Day. my miserable day.
I know. Yeah.
Just to clear the channel on that part. We went in earlier today in order to push stuff to production. It's just a software thing. It's like pushing stuff in the wild. And one item after the other failed miserably. Failed. It hurts. It's painful. And then taking a bitter drill, dozed off at work, and it's just bad experience all around. So
naps are
make
good.
it up. No, it's not too good. That's embarrassing. It's more the embarrassment of it than anything else. It's like you wake up, like your eyes wake up, and you're all of a sudden just mentally aware all at once. It's like you just snap to it, like, oh shit, I'm at work. I think I just went to sleep.
That reminds me, in college, I overslept for my first exam.
Oh, that sucks.
I think I turned it off, and I don't remember turning off my alarm, right? Because I was so nervous. I stayed up so late. And I remember opening my eyes and just knowing something, it was bad. Because I just got a restful night's sleep.
That's the worst. It's like you're aware all at once.
That weird, I was like,
it's like, what time is it?
What time is it? Right.
What time is it? Yeah, that sucks, man. That is the worst feeling in the world. You just snap to attention all at once. You're like, oh shit, what time is it? I need to go. Oh, that sucks. So, Elizabeth Beck, the DNC lawsuit bringer, the person who decided to take it upon themselves to say, you know what, they cheated our guy. They cheated Sanders. In their bylaws, they said they were supposed to be honest and fair. And you had a grinning idiot who would come into the camera from the DNC and say, this was an honest and fair contest. And you guys got them to admit in court that we can choose people in the back room if we want. It doesn't have to be a fair contest. We can lie. We want to lie. We can say whatever we want to say. We are the DNC. What took place? Let me ask you, the first question is, why you? Why was it just you and your husband, just random people making a decision? What was the thing that actually drove you to do this? Because look, you have 325 million people in the country, and it was only two of you who decided to bring a lawsuit against the DNC. Why?
Well, first of all, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Judge Posner of the Seventh Circuit?
Mm-mm.
God, how old is he? He must be in his 70s now. So we have federal district courts, which is a federal court, and the next level up is the appellate courts, and then above that is the Supreme Court. And this is the Seventh Circuit Appellate Court. I believe it's the seventh. And Judge Posner recently retired after some 30-odd years on the bench.
Wow.
And when he retired, he gave an interview. Do you know what he said in his interview, Jamal? He said that after being in a slumber for some 30-odd years, he woke up and he decided that he didn't want to be a judge anymore. And one of the reasons that he cited for not wanting to be a judge is that he looked around the court system that he's working in.
Yeah.
And he realizes that the judges treat the people that come into their courtroom as trash.
Wow. He said that.
He did. So, Jamal, when you say that there's millions of people in this country that, why us? First of all, if they were to file a lawsuit on their own, even assuming they figured out the arcane and complicated court rules, and managed to file a lawsuit and pay the $400, $500 in court fees just to lodge that complaint, the courts are going to see them as trash. So you need a lawyer. It doesn't matter how meritorious your case is. If you don't have a lawyer, the court system sees you as trash. That's the system we have. And so now the group has shrunk, right? From millions and millions of aggrieved people, it has now shrunk to this bottleneck. And the bottleneck is lawyers. You got to find a lawyer to take your case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last time, I think I just Googled it, there was like 1 point something million lawyers in this country. A big chunk of them never do plaintiff's work.
Yeah.
Okay. They just have a policy of not taking cases on contingency. And so now that's an even smaller group of people that can be a vehicle through which this case can see a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of that even smaller group of lawyers who take cases on contingency, well, I don't know, Jamal, you're going to have to ask them why they didn't take it. I have a suspicion. I mean, it's not like I hired a person to do a survey or anything, but a lot of those, and this is a class action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a class action is a special type of lawsuit where one person says, I'm going to hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit, but I'm going to do it on behalf of a whole bunch of people that are
right.
just kind of watch. And many lawyers will only do class actions. That's all they do. Now, I'm not one of those lawyers. I do all types of plaintiffs' class actions. I do all types of plaintiffs' class actions. I do all types of plaintiffs' work. So a lot of those lawyers who only do class actions, believe it or not, they have historically been big Clinton donors, and they're really in deep with the Democratic Party. They're like players. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
I've never been involved in politics. I barely voted. I'm like, oh, it's an election year. Let me go. I actually I know this is a really poor reflection on me, but I'm just going to say it. I actually recently figured out who my congressperson was.
That's not a poor reflection. I mean, think about the number of people who were out of politics until, you know, somebody like Sanders jarred them out of politics, like, you know, the complacency. I don't think that's crazy at all. I look at this stuff as, under normal circumstances, media doesn't really have the conversation about things that actually matter. Your congressman is something that I would imagine matters. What that congressman votes, how that congressman behaves when that congressman is in office, but it never comes up. Local news doesn't bring it up. So I don't necessarily think that's crazy that you would necessarily know until you actually, something jars you into saying, okay, I'm politically awake now. I'm politically aware. What's going on? No, I don't think it's crazy at all.
And there's just so much to learn. I was looking at the congressional map, and it was so difficult to figure out which district I was in. Why do they make this so hard? You know, I'm like,
I don't know. I think it makes it hard.
Am I in District 25, 26?
I'm trying to make sure we're on it because I am not seeing it, and I don't know why I'm not seeing it. I'm at the link. I'm looking at what takes place because I'm not seeing chat, even though I'm seeing people on. All right,
well, I see. I don't have the chat. I don't have the link yet.
Oh, there it is. I'm seeing it. Okay, that's it.
Are we on? Have we been on?
Yeah, we're on. No, we're on. We're on. We have 19 people. It's growing.
Hey, where's the link so I can share it?
Oh, I sent it to you on Twitter.
Did you? Oh, you sent it to me on Twitter. Okay, never mind. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I see it. Hold on, people. All right. Ooh, copy link address. Oh, okay. There's so many vehicles of. All right.
Yeah, like Twitter is on YouTube. It's all sorts of Facebook. I guess what I'm trying to get at is what drove into you guys to do it. Because, like you said, there may be a smaller funnel, but something got you guys up that morning and said, I'm going to file a lawsuit. I'm not going to take this lying down. I'm going to do something about it. What was the impetus Because like you said, you just now learned who your congressman was. So something awoke you. Something kind of said, whoa, what's going on here? I need to get involved in this. What was that definitive thing, if there was a definitive thing?
Oh, yeah. That's a really good question. I guess, wow. Why did I gravitate towards Bernie Sanders as a candidate?
Well, because let me give an example. When I started this channel, I think I started the channel maybe first of the year. And, you know, there's nobody there. You're essentially screaming in front of a forest, in the middle of a forest. You're by yourself. And there's like one subscriber. And you still come on, you still do a show. And you do another one and another one. There's something driving. It's like there's something there that's putting enough angst to say, you're going to do this because something is in you rattling that makes you do this. I'm assuming that something is there for you to actually go through the hassle of filing a lawsuit. I'm trying to get what is that?
By the time we filed the lawsuit, okay, there was a lot of people that were upset, and I was right there with them because I had traveled with them on their journey since 2016. And by that, what I mean is I was on social media a lot, Jamarl, during there were all these Bernie groups, Bernie or Buzz, California for Bernie, Southerners for Bernie. I mean, I think I joined all of them. Okay, I went on a Bernie Facebook group buffet, and I was following all of them, and we would share memes. And here I am, a 40-year-old woman, learning what a dank meme was. I'm like, what the hell is a dank meme? Anyway, so we would share Bernie memes. Some of them were really funny, you know.
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn. There was like a one of my favorite.
Inevitable, and then feel the burn. He burns it. Yeah.
One of my favorite cartoons. Yeah, one of my favorite cartoons memes was like this cartoon character, and he's like, you know, we want Bernie. What happens if he doesn't? Shut up. But he could lose the nomination. Wait, shut up. Did you see that meme? That was really funny. I saved it.
I love those memes. Some of those memes are hilarious.
So funny. And then there was another meme, which was like somebody found this picture of Bernie, and he literally looked like a Muppet from his younger days. And it was just like, hey, baby, something like, you know, I don't know. It was just funny.
Oh, man, funny. That's hilarious.
Anyway, I was in the, and then, Jamarl, what ended up happening was, you know, all these news from the ground started coming in during the primary. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
People in New York were like live streaming from the polls, and they're like, I'm here to vote, and they can't find my ballot, and they gave me a provisional. Does this count?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I'm here at my polling station, and they see the machine's broken. Yeah. And then, of course, there was Nevada. That was a total that was Nevada's not that was total bullshit. Hold on a second. Give me a second. I'm sharing this. On live with Jamarl Thomas of Progressive Soapbox. Now join us. See, this is what I do. That's why I'm in such a bad mood when people are like, I don't know who's managing your page, but can you tell them that they're being unprofessional? I'm like, it's me. You think I have like a huge army of people here? So they like DM me and they're like, you need to talk to your PR person. I don't really know why this page is behaving like this. It's me. I don't have a PR person. I don't have a PR person. It's me. It's me and an internet connection. Oh, and like a mic.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. Me, a connection and a mic. When I first started, my mic would mess up all the time. I could not get my sound right for like the first 3 months. And people would bitch and moan about the sound. They're like, you need a better tech person. There is no tech person. It's just me. It's just me.
It's just me. Yeah. So, oh, thank you. So I just shared the link. So what was I? So yeah. So Nevada. Okay. And then remember, I don't know if you followed what was going on in California. Yes. But I remember seeing pictures. Somebody was like, why is this huge why is this truck from a paper shredding company outside the local election board office? And then people were like, and they would show pictures. I'm at the local election office, and I'm peeping through the windows, and I think they're using whiteout on the ballots.
Well, you know, what's his name? What's his name? Redacted tonight. He did an awesome take. Lee Camp did an awesome take showing how people were standing up saying, look, when we did the ballots and we did the visual thing, because there were some states where you had to actually look, you allow people to actually look at them doing a paper count. It didn't match up. The paper count didn't match up with the machines, and the people would change the vote total in order to make it match the machines. That's amazing. It's like you just found a discrepancy. And instead of saying, okay, we have a discrepancy here.
Hello? Hey, Jamal, you froze. What happened here? I think Jamal froze.
Hello. Oh,
hello? No, you're back. You're back.
Ah, there you are.
Hey.
I hear you. I just couldn't see you.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Lee Camp thing showed how some of the people would do, and they would say this doesn't match the vote total. The vote total that the person doing the paper count doesn't match the machine, and they would change.
That's so crazy to me. That's kind of like you have $40 in your bank account, and then when you go to the bank's like our records are showing you only have $350. You're like, I thought I had 400. So instead of like giving you $50, they're like, well, we're just going to take $50 out of your account to match what our records are. Like, wait a minute, that's my money.
It makes no sense. You're talking about
we have to have the records match. It's like that's
you're talking about a vote,
right?
Yeah, I mean you're actually talking about
discrepancies.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is if there's any discrepancy whatsoever, you're actually talking about making a decision on who you're going to have running your country. And instead of saying, let's figure out what the actual total is, the goal is, let's just make it match the machine total. Let's just make it match the machine. Like of both of the two things, the paper ballot will be the most accurate. It's the one that you would expect to have the best total. No, let's just make it match the machine, whatever the machine matches. And you're right, Nevada was trash. Nevada was absolute trash. You could see it. They showed it online where these guys were doing these hand totals and all this other stuff. And you're right about New York. They 100,000 people thrown off the rolls in New York just before the vote.
So Rhode Island had issues with the polls, and then in Massachusetts, Bill Clinton was running around like a lunatic, breaking all sorts of election laws.
That was against the law. They just gave him a pass on that.
He's been getting this country has been given him a lot of pass. And then there was like, I heard news from Tennessee, but you see, these were all kind of news that was coming in. It wasn't coming through the news channels, it was eyewitness testimony, but it was just, so by the time 2016 rolled around and Gucci for 2.0 released those leaks, us Bernie people, including myself, we didn't have to be brought up to speed.
No,
you know what I mean? There are people now that are being brought up to speed. Let me tell you, Jamal, there are people that DM me on the page and they're like, I'm just finding about this lawsuit. Oh my God.
How are you just finding out about the lawsuit?
Oh my God, this is shocking. And I think I don't get mad at those people. I'm like, okay, well, it's better late than never.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to be brought up to speed because we spent months and months and months following each other on the pages and getting all this news. So, and as plaintiffs' lawyers, Jamara, we tend to move very quickly anyway.
Yeah.
And as trial lawyers, you can't sit on your butt like contemplating things for millennia and thinking about your next move. Trial lawyers tend to be very fast moving and fast thinking and reactionary. So we're like, boom, lawsuit. Okay, so we filed a lawsuit and then things went from bad to worse. It went from bad to worse. We're like, okay, these are just election shenanigans, because when Nico House first contacted us and we interviewed him at our office, he graduated now, but he was a college student then, and he started, I believe, the North Carolina Students Association for Bernie, and he came and he was, going on and on about all this weird stuff that was happening in North Carolina.
Mm.
But you know what? The typical American things. Well, that's just North Carolina, And we're like, I don't know what the hell's going on with the Democratic Party in North Carolina, but it sounds like y'all can't get your act together. Turns out that all the stuff that Nico was telling us was not a rogue party out of control in one state.
It was all over.
Yeah, I don't know how, it looks fairly systemic. But the thing was, when Nico first came and told us that, I think we were a little bit flabbergasted. We were like, really? But you have to understand when, all the people in social media, and of course, when you have somebody come into your office like Nico and they're telling you all the stuff that's going on in the local party, that prepares you mentally for when the leaks happen. Like I said, you don't have to be brought up to speed. And so,
to give you context, yeah.
Yeah, and so people we're lawyers. We peddle legal services. That's what we do. All right. So if we see a legal problem, we'll offer our services. So we got hired. I don't know how many people hired us. I want to say 10,000. I don't even remember anymore.
Wow.
I don't remember.
There was a class action lawsuit. It was a lot of people backing this lawsuit.
You only need one person, but my little spidey senses told me that we should go beyond the minimum one person and maybe add a bunch to show anybody looking at this lawsuit that it wasn't some crazy lawsuit jimmied up by one person. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
So we added...
The more people, the better. It's like the more heft associated with it.
Yeah, it's not necessary procedurally, but we wanted to show that this wasn't some crazy lawsuit cooked up by one person and, who managed to find a lawyer. So we put the amended complaint ended up with 150 people, but there were thousands and thousands who had signed up. But I couldn't add all of them. That wouldn't make any sense. That becomes too unwieldy. That would probably even, irritate the court. So we did 150. And then, of course, WikiLeaks then thereafter released more documents, which showed that the collusion is systemic throughout the Democratic Party.
Right. They choose their candidate. They knew who they wanted beforehand. My theory was Obama and Hillary Clinton ran in that race. And it was a vicious contest. It was one of these things where both people, for the most part, had brass knuckles and wanted to win that election. So they didn't necessarily, they went after each other. Yeah. At the end of it, Hillary Clinton said, okay, I'm giving you my votes to Obama. I want you people to vote for Obama. Now, the interesting part in this is that the people, the Pumas, what is it? Party Unity, my ass. Those people, a lot of those people still didn't vote for Obama, even though Hillary threw a support. And more Bernie supporters voted for Hillary than Hillary supporters voted for Obama. I find that to be amazing.
I think this, I think the whole Puma and Demexit and, Party Unity, I don't know if that's where I necessarily want to focus my attention. I'll tell you why. Because when I was first drawn to Bernie Sanders as a presidential candidate, been a lifelong Democrat. And at that time, Jamarl, I think I probably would have joked and said, this guy has a snowball's chance in hell of getting the nomination.
I would imagine Bernie Sanders probably would have said the same thing.
Right. Initially. So I was like, but you know what? I like him. And then once he didn't win, I would have trooped to the polls and very, very loyally cast my vote for Secretary Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay. Way back in the day, that's exactly what I probably would have intended to do. So by supporting Bernie, I was not being a bad Democrat. I was participating in the process. Right. I wanted to support the candidate that I liked. And I really didn't think a lot of people would support him because he didn't seem very particularly pro big business or anything.
Initially.
Yeah. But a lot of people, it turned out, way more than I anticipated, shared my opinion.
Yeah.
And so he gained momentum. I've been to his rallies. He was a popular guy.
Me too. Hell, those rallies are love fests.
Of course, CNN never showed them. And then
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's hard to get into people who haven't been to a Bernie Sanders rally. It's hard to get across what those rallies are like. Like, and maybe this is just my experience. It was like a love fest. It's like you're there and you have all of these other people who are there with you who have this kind of you're united in this kind of one thought. You know, these are the things that we want to get accomplished. We can have a different country, a different world. You're united. It's like all of these people are there with this kind of same goal. And the guy comes out on stage like a rock star and plows into the speech. Same stump speech he's given over and over again. Healthcare, education. We need to have a better country. We need to treat the environment better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, yes, finally, somebody's saying it. Somebody's saying it. And the rest of the country looked at it and says, hey, that guy seems fundamentally different than these other people. I want something different. The thing with Clinton, what I was getting at is Hillary Clinton ran the campaign oftentimes as if it was her turn. She would even make this thing of saying, you know, Bernie supporters need to support me in the same way I supported Obama, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was this particular argument as if her taking Secretary of State was her way of saying, okay, I'm taking Secretary of State. I'm getting in a position for president after the fact. Obama did everything he could to push her in regards to, all right, I'm going to give you this throw of sorts. I'm going to throw all my support behind you. Everybody knows Obama was going for Hillary Clinton, not Bernie Sanders. I think behind the scenes, they looked at it as it's my turn. And so all of the Democratic apparatus turned into this idea of it's her turn. Let's make sure it's her turn.
Secretary Clinton should really consider taking a vacation to North Korea. I heard, but don't quote me on this, because I heard from my sources there, which is basically like people who went there and write stories about it that I read about, that in North Korea, everybody votes. 100% election rates. And they all vote for the guy in office because it's always That's like Secretary Clinton's wet dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always my turn.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Yeah. They're being sexist.
And they're all gonna vote for me. So I mean, that's not supposed, as far as I know, that's not the way our elections are supposed to be run.
That's supposed to be anyway.
So anyway, I think the groundswell of support for Bernie really kind of started to test this machine, because you just don't know how strong something is unless it's tested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could be like, oh, I got a new roof. I paid a lot of money for it. But then you just don't know how strong that roof is until Irma blows through.
It's for Democrats. You know? Democrats, I think, are terrified of their older brother. They're terrified of what they were, meaning who they were. Their shadow. No, their shadow. The classic Democrats. Bernie Sanders, he calls himself a socialist. He's just a classic Democrat. He's just a classic FDR Democrat. They're terrified of attacks from the left. From their perspective, they've cornered the left in the United States. So they could say, we're the Democratic Party. We're the left party in this country. If it's only two parties in the country, then they could say we've cornered the left. Whatever policies we put out.
Left in the dust.
They've lost everything. They've lost everything. But from their perspective, Bernie Sanders creates a problem for them. If Bernie Sanders is being earnest, and Bernie Sanders is actually what they were, and he's the left-leaning candidate, he was able to pull up, $220 million, meaning their plan, their idea of, well, you have to take all this money from big business, otherwise you can't run, was found to be bust. They've lost everything, so they can't even take claim to fame of, hey, you have to take on these policies in order to win, because they failed all throughout the country and lost the House, Senate, Supreme Court, and the presidency. They have no claim to fame to anything anymore. So now you have this new left, these progressives who are agitated and aggressive and angry at what took place in the primaries. How does the Democratic Party deal with the new left?
Okay.
I
think blaming Bernie is so wrong because, you know.
Oh, of course. It's insane.
I'm just going to come out and say it.
Yeah.
Bernie ain't no Jesus. I mean,
no, exactly.
like the exceptional situation about what happened is not Bernie, it's the people that decided that they were going to get engaged in the political process. I would even say that Bernie's,
I do think he woke him up.
Yeah, he did, but I think he was at the right time at the right place.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he has crazy hair and old shoes helped.
Well, he was an outlaw. The guy came from the wilderness, came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean,
they
it
were
really
looking
helped.
for something fundamentally different.
Yeah, because I mean, who was that Democrat? John Edwards?
Yeah, John Edwards, the one who was the wife. Yeah,
yeah, he was. He was just like.
He was polished.
And I'm like, he was very polished, and I read somewhere that he, had like $400 haircuts. I'm not blaming anybody for having $400 haircuts, but I'm like,
what are you doing for $400?
I mean, like, what do you like at home? I mean, are you at home like that? Like, all like, so I think people really want to get to.
They want authenticity.
I want to know the candidates. So I don't think, if it wasn't going to be Bernie, it was going to be somebody else, because I remember even before Bernie showed up on the scene, there was Occupy Wall Street, and there was a lot of popular anger and frustration at how this country was issuing policies that were not of any benefit, and to the detriment of the vast majority of Americans. So that was going to go somewhere. And
I just wish they would have been more aggressive, Occupy Wall Street. I honestly wish they would have been more like politically minded, not just.
I heard they were infiltrated, which makes sense to me.
If they probably were, but if you think of it from the standpoint of the Tea Party, so you had these two sections of the country who responded to the exact same thing, this kind of thing of this country is fundamentally unfair in the way it segregates its wealth. And the left responded to the instance of Occupy Wall Street. The right responded by blaming Mexicans and Hispanics that are coming into the country. So those guys formed the Tea Party. The left formed Occupy Wall Street. Now, right-wingers tend to fall in line. Lefties dislike authority. And so they ended up in this kind of decentralized thing. They probably were infiltrated. They were broken up in that way. I just wish that I wish that energy went into something that was a little bit more aggressive from a political standpoint. That's all.
I agree with you. I think lefties tend to be more squirrely, which can be good and bad, because it's definitely more difficult to corral lefties.
Agreed.
But on the other hand, we tend to fight with each other a lot.
It's like you have 40 different groups and all of them are the exact same thing.
Man. Okay. Okay. So to me, let me tell you to me, it is very important, like how lefties do not follow hierarchy well. So I'm part of this. I don't have a bitch about the locals. All right. So I'm part of this local progressive newsletter. It's a bunch of people on an email chain. Fritzi Gaccioni, she publishes the newsletter. Okay. And, I voted for Trump in the general. My husband, Jared, voted Jill.
You voted for Donald Trump? Holy shit. Seriously.
Tomorrow, this is not a secret.
I am curious about this one.
I Facebooked this on the day I voted. This is not a secret. Each time I mention this, somebody else comes out and says, "You voted for Trump? Bye-bye."
No. I'm not bashing you for it. I'm more curious about this. So what was your motivation for voting for Trump? I voted for Jill Stein. What was your motivation for voting for Donald Trump? I'm curious about this. I'm fascinated by this vote. Go for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this vote.
Secret. I think a lot of people did, actually. They just don't want to talk about it.
A lot of people did. I think a lot of people wanted something fundamentally different. They didn't necessarily want to vote for Hillary Clinton. They didn't want same old status quo. They wanted something different.
Yeah.
So if you want something different and you don't want status quo.
That's not why I did it.
But why did you do it?
I did it because I have 2 kids, and I have a dog, and I used to have a puppy. And I've had other cats and dogs in my life. And what I know is, if a kid or an animal, it doesn't matter. If they, let's say like a puppy poops in your shoe,
Okay.
Right? If a puppy poops in your shoe, if you don't do anything about it, it's going to poop in your shoe again.
Okay, I understand the logic, but see, that was part of my reasoning for voting for Jill Stein. I thought they cheated my guy. I can't bring myself to vote for her.
Yeah, you cannot reward bad behavior.
Yeah, can't reward it. As terrified as I was of Donald Trump, I could not reward that behavior.
Oh,
I was terrified of Trump.
People are like, oh my God, Donald Trump, he's Satan come to life. I'm like, there are worse people than him out running around out there. He's not I mean, like, as far as I can tell, he's not a serial killer.
You didn't know
he's not like the Green River slasher or whatever those people
it's a Green River slasher.
I don't know. It's, you know, those like scary serial killers that they write books on.
You didn't hear there was a special place in hell for women who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton? Oh, I forgot who said it. I just find that.
No, it was that. It was that woman.
Was it Gloria Steinem? It was one.
No, it wasn't Gloria Steinem. It's that other person. Okay, so I'm going to say something. I'm 43. I'm squarely Gen X.
Okay.
I'm going to say something that's not going to be very popular.
Go for it. Doesn't have to be. It's your opinion.
But I've talked to other women, and they agree with me. Sometimes the people who least support young women coming up the ranks seem to be older women who've already made it.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to other women in my generation, and they agree with me. I've been thinking a lot about it, why that's so. And perhaps it's because when they came up the ranks, it was such a different world from ours. It was so much more difficult. There was no help. God knows what they had to do in order to get where they are, that just by looking at us with our advantages, they resent us. Okay? And there's not too much camaraderie I necessarily feel from, for example, like when I look at Secretary Clinton, I don't necessarily see somebody who would help women. I don't get that sense from her. And, you know, I'm not saying just because you're a woman, you have to go out there and help women. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's like, you know, she's totally entitled to go about her business and just think about numero uno. But I don't necessarily see her as a woman in a position of great influence as helping other women.
I see.
I don't get that vibe.
I see.
So, and I admire her for her accomplishments. I'm sure it took a lot of, you know, a lot of effort and a lot of traits that many people didn't have to get to where she is now. But that comment about if you don't vote for Secretary Clinton, there's a special place in hell for you, to me, just encapsulates the voraciousness of how they view younger women coming up the ranks.
Yeah.
I don't owe her anything. I'm sorry that things are easier for me than it was for her and her generation, but I don't owe her anything. I wasn't born to serve that woman. Okay. All right. So, you know, I understand a lot of the issues that women from all backgrounds, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, or you're a single mom, or you work outside the home, or whatever your situation is, I've seen it all. And I think that there are some issues that women uniquely face. But that doesn't mean that I'm just going to go and cast my ballot for her based on the fact that she's a woman. So
essentially, you don't vote with your vagina.
Well, it's more than that. So you can recognize, all right, let me see if I can come up with another example.
let me ask it this way.
Just because we recognize that there is a problem in our society that may victimize some people in some way, you don't fix that problem by electing one of those victims as a leader.
Oh, I see. Well, okay, that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Let me put it in these terms. Obama gets elected, African Americans, and there's this feeling of, okay, we have a black president. What does this mean? And I would argue that people still are kind of asking this question, what did it mean to have a black president? Now, I have to be honest, I don't necessarily know what it meant. Ultimately, you had that president, he goes into office and he was terrified of his blackness, if I was being honest. When the Louis Gates thing is a really good example where Louis Gates was locked up at his front porch.
Obama was that professor who got into
Yeah, the professor. He gets locked up at
was that the beer teaching moment?
Yes, that was a beer teaching moment. That was
all right.
Obama comes out and says this guy, that cop acted stupidly. Then people are like, how dare you say the cop acted stupidly? Bow your heads, bow your heads. And cowers, like the president of the United States is cowed by people bitching and moaning at him. And he comes out and says, let's have a beer summit. Screw the beer summit. That cop locked this guy up at his own front door. He did act stupidly. The honest answer was that guy acted stupidly. And as an African-American, stand by that. He doesn't do that. They told Obama early on, you can be a president that just so happens to be black, but you can't necessarily be a black president. I'm not necessarily using blackness from the standpoint of, whatever that means to whoever that means. I just mean you have this situation where a cop locks somebody up at their front door and your first response is to be cowed by people complaining. In the same situation, if that was Donald Trump, he's a buffoon, he's a clown, but he would have stood by his statement and not thought anything of it that people were complaining and bitching about it. I guess what I'm saying is I agree with you in the sense of electing a black president doesn't necessarily mean there's this kind of emancipatory moment for African Americans. Oftentimes, you just get this person who's in office who behaves just like every other president that was in office. I think what you're saying is putting a woman in that office doesn't necessarily mean that things that pertain to women are necessarily going to get this kind of top of the line treatment. Ultimately, you're just going to get somebody who's just so happens to be a woman in that office who's a president.
I wouldn't have voted for Obama if I thought he was a blithering idiot, and I voted for him twice.
No, I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's extraordinarily bright.
Yeah.
He just necessarily is just somewhat of a classic Republican. If you're talking about political leanings, he's like Ronald Reagan.
Oh, Jamarl, I have opinions about all the presidents since Kennedy, but I don't know if this is the show where I should talk about it.
If you that would be an interesting talk. There's Seymour Hersh has this awesome thing talking about the dark side of the Kennedy administration, and it is amazing. What the heck is
Seymour Hersh, and why does his name keep popping up?
Seymour Hersh is an investigative reporter. He's the guy who put out the My Lai massacre. He's the one who exposed the My Lai massacre. Seymour Hersh. Yeah, that's him. That's him. He looks like a news guy. Like if you ever seen him,
Seymour.
Like
get it? It's a pun. Seymour.
Oh. Yeah, Seymour Hersh. And he just so happens to be a journalist. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the My Lai massacre. He also came out with this thing about the Bin Laden raid, saying all of those things were lies. That the Pakistani government essentially told Obama that, hey, somebody came to the United States and says, hey, they're holding Bin Laden. Pakistani government worked with the United States. The United States essentially had a hit job on Bin Laden. Seymour Hersh came out and revealed it. Seymour Hersh also came out and said
the Pakistani government told the Obama presidency this and that.
Yeah.
Did they tell him through Imran Awan?
Well, here's the thing. Because if you think about it, it does make sense. It crashed. They had enough time. They were near a Pakistani military base. They had enough time to blow up one of the helicopters, bring down another helicopter, get out of that helicopter, and get back into the place without anybody seeing them. It was a hit job.
You're going to the topics now. See, this is where I have to be brought up to speed because, I'm like, what?
Oh, my bad. I was saying, look up Seymour Hersh. Seymour Hersh is fascinating. And to be fair, I kind of want to get into the case. So what ended the case? What was the thing that, I'm sorry, we've been running our mouth. What was the thing that actually ended the case? What was the thing where the court?
So, man, okay, I'm just going to make up a number. The top 5 crazy things that happened in this case. Disturbing, crazy, freaky, harrowing, you name it. Number 1, the defendants, DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, claim we didn't serve them properly, even though we live streamed the whole service of process. Before our process server, Sean Lucas, was to testify in trial, he shows up dead. The second crazy thing is Seth Rich is gunned down in the streets of DC. He would have most likely been a material witness in our case.
By the way, Seymour Hersh also said that Seth Rich was elite. He said it on an audio tape, and they caught him. It was like this leaked audio tape where Seth Rich was talking to someone. He said he had an FBI informant. The FBI informant was looking at the information and said Seth Rich was elite.
I don't even know. I know this is...
Oh, I don't know either. I'm just saying.
I don't know if Seth Rich is really dead.
You don't know if Seth Rich is dead. I think he's...
Well, let me ask you, Jamaro. Let's say he's the leaker. Don't you think that it might be possible that Seth Rich might have gone into some sort of witness protection program or something?
Oh, you mean to get out the way to make sure that nothing takes place? So okay.
So
now,
how would you cover that up? You would say he's dead. You know?
Yes. See, this is one of those things. There's a scene in Batman, Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, where as he's playing the Joker, and he was like,
"Rest in peace."
Yes, yeah, that man played an amazing Joker. Man,
he was a very gifted actor.
Yes, he was. Particularly in that role, he blew that role away. But there was a very particular scene where Batman is holding him over the ledge, and him and Batman are having this fascinating conversation. Well, the Joker is right in most of the conversation. Most of what he's saying is right. He's just a nihilist. This is perspective, and he's making this point like reality is a little bit like gravity. When you take a step off the edge, there's nothing below you. It's like you have to have something. There's something that you need to hold on to in order to have some semblance of what's real, even if that thing is not necessarily real, if that makes sense. Seth Rich could be in hiding. That may be true. Seth Rich could be dead. That also may be true. It's external to us. We have no idea what takes place outside of ourselves. So that's true. There's a certain level of ambiguity.
Seth Rich is gone.
That's what we know. That's a flat fact.
I don't know where he is, but he's not poking his nose out from anywhere.
Right.
So that was the second weird thing. Another weird thing is we've been getting a lot of calls, and as you know, we sued the DNC and Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Mm-hmm. She's the Congresswoman from Broward and Miami-Dade because she was the chair when this all went down, the chair of the DNC.
Right.
And this person called our office using voice changer technology. Did you hear about this, Jamaro?
I did hear about this. Essentially, they were like robotic voices in the office, but it was coming from her office.
The caller ID number came from her local office, which apparently is closed for renovations. But like, who would do that? Is that a prank? Is somebody spoofing us? Why would they spoof us? Leave me alone. What are you, like somebody having yucks out there? I don't know what's going on. Is that you, Debbie? I don't know.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, and the other thing was, that's bizarre. That was kind of just weird. And then, one of our clients had her house broken into. Nothing was taken, though. Her laptop was messed with. My co-counsel, Cullen O'Brien, he's been getting these really harassing phone calls on his phone, talking about dead lawyers showing up. I don't know. Just really weird stuff. What else? And then we had a 3.5-hour hearing in court where the lawyers for the DNC just came in and said, we can smoke cigars in back rooms and pick the candidates that way, and that would be fine.
No, they can. I mean, I think you.
Yeah, that's fine.
For some reason,
you just can't say that. That's okay.
No. Let me explain why I say that. It's this thing that the DNC and the Republican Party are just corporations.
Sure.
It's like any other private entity that make a choice to say who do we want to have as our our go-to guy. It's just so happened they have a primary because they know people wouldn't necessarily vote for their guy if they just pick the guy in a smoke-filled room.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You take any corporation, Apple, Nabisco, Keebler Cookie Company, and yes, if you're the Keebler Cookie Company, you can freeze cow pies and sell them as cookies. Okay? Right.
Right, you just can't lie about it.
Label the package as being chocolate chip macadamia nut cookies. You can't do that. You'll get sued.
That's the part. That's the part.
The thing about the DNC is, yes, you can pick your candidates in back rooms smoking cigars. So imagine, Jamaro, if instead of Debbie Wasserman Schultz coming out on national news and saying, we're being fair, we're running a fair primary, trust me, if I wanted to cheat, we could. I don't know what she said, but she basically said they were running a fair primary. Right. It's in their charter. It's in writing, okay? Yeah. I don't know. When it's in writing, it seems to mean something. All those banks seem to foreclose on people's homes because they signed a piece of paper in writing.
Beyond that. People gave $220 million to Bernie Sanders under this idea that it was a fair contest.
So, but imagine, Jamaro, if instead of saying all that, they came out and said, okay, Democrats, we're getting ready for the 2016 primary. All right.
We're picking Hillary.
All right, people. We went into a back room and we smoked a bunch of cigars, okay? And we picked Hillary. All right, she's going to be the eventual nominee. But we got these two people. What's your name again? Oh, Martin. Okay, we got Martin O'Malley. And, oh, yeah, you're that guy from Vermont.
The socialist. We got the socialist over here.
Just for local flavor. All right. So they're here as placeholders. We're going to run a race. But just so you know, we want to be perfectly honest with you people, our voting base, because we respect you. And we would never want to cheat you or lie to you. We would never do that.
We're picking Hillary.
We're picking Hillary. Just want to make that. I don't want anybody getting confused here.
Nobody would have had issue with that, though. Like, at the very least, you would have been honest.
It's going to be Hillary.
Yeah,
all right?
At least you would have been honest.
But can we all kind of show that we're all one big family and have a race and donate to people? Do you think people would donate to that?
Hell no. It's fraud. Like, I kind of made this point in my own show that this seems to be fraud just on its face.
Yeah.
You're telling me it's a fair process. And pursuant to that being a fair process, I'm giving money to a candidate because I want the candidate to win in that fair process. Mm-hmm. Now, if you tell me after the fact, or if I find out after the fact that it wasn't a fair process, you've lied to me. You've consistently lied to me. You've lied to me for months on end because this contest has been going on in to the tune of $200 million.
I have another
point. That's amazing. Like that's just mind blowing. That's not. That just seems like fraud on his face.
I'll tell you another. I'll give you another example. So some people, I've noticed, they say, "Well, you know, Secretary Clinton, there's this idea that she won the nomination just because enough people voted for her, edged out Bernie." Now, I know that there's a lot of dispute because there's been a lot of reports of election rigging, but let's put that aside. Let's assume, for the sake of argument,
superdelegates,
right, and the superdelegates. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that more people voted for Hillary Clinton and she would have gotten the nomination anyway. Okay, so people are like, "Well, she would have gotten the nomination anyway. What are you guys bitching about?" So let me give you an example, Jamaro. What state are you in, Jamaro?
I'm in Virginia.
Okay, do you guys have a lottery?
We do have a lottery.
Oh, good. We have the Florida lottery too. Imagine, do you play the lotto? I play it once.
I do not. Okay. No, I find it to be a waste. I don't want to waste my money on it. I always lose it. I played it when I was younger. My mom used to play it. And ultimately we just used to lose that money.
I know. You never win. You never win. I think I play it like once a year, you know, just for shiggles.
Yeah.
But imagine, Jamaro, if in your state's lottery, you know, they pick the numbers and some random woman's like, I won. So imagine, Jamaro, like if they picked her ahead of time. Imagine if the state lotto commission board, you already knew who was going to win. Okay. And they're like, okay, gentlemen and ladies, it's going to be 27, 42, 6, 19, and 8. But don't tell anybody. Those numbers come. And it's going to be Mrs. Louisa Marks, okay, from Charlottesville or whatever the heck, right? She's our designated winner, all right? And so those numbers come up, and this winner is like, I never thought I was going to win. And then it turns out that they had picked her in advance, and this was all jimmied, okay? And you're holding your $27 worth of lotto tickets. You with me?
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going with this. I agree with you, yeah.
Wait a minute. I paid $27 in lotto tickets because I thought this was going to be a fair race. And then, you know what the board says? well, you were going to win the lotto anyway. You thought you were going to win with your $27 in lotto tickets. Get out.
Or they would turn around and says, we can choose whoever we want to choose to win the lotto. Yeah. We don't have to abide by any kind of rules.
You think that's going to fly with people who play the lotto? You think
no, it's not. I don't. But see, I don't.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they say, well, Hillary was going to win anyway. You just don't rig. You don't rig races.
You don't rig it. The democratic process is an overhaul of one government going to the next. It's like a toppling of a kingdom of sorts. You're literally changing the authority, the people who are ruling you. You are making a choice on who do we want to rule our government. What policies do we want to implement? What people? What's the status quo? What's the new status quo that we want to have? It's an amazing thing that takes place when this is a peaceful process. It is traumatic, to say the least, when the process is kneecapped in the way that it was kneecapped, where you have this thing where overt cheating, like it's not, we think they cheated. It's, oh, you cheated. And here's the information that says you cheated and you've been lying to us the entire time. Deborah Wasserman-Schultz lost her job. Why did she lose her job? For no reason. Donna Brazile lost her job. Why did she lose her job? For no reason. And then you have this indignity or embarrassment, whatever you want to call it, of Donna Brazile losing her job at CNN because she was passing notes to the Hillary campaign, only to get the job at the DNC over the disgraced candidate or the disgraced person, Deborah Wasserman-Schultz, who was there prior. I mean, I find this to be an amazing circumstance of events. And they're shocked that people are upset about this. They're shocked by it. Look, I thought you and your husband were warriors to make that lawsuit. I said to myself, these people are amazing to do this.
No. We file a lot of lawsuits. I know that I'm on social media a lot, and people think, man, that loser lawyer, all she does is scream on Twitter and like she lost that DNC case. I'm sorry, people. I have a life. I have other cases. I know people don't think I do. I have other cases. I work on them. I just don't shower every day. That's how I get everything done.
That's how you get it done? I just avoid showering. I gain an hour in the morning from that
That's
shower.
Right. I don't make my bed. I eat crap, you know. I cut corners.
That's how you, it's like those little corners add up.
That's right. That's how I get things done.
Let me ask you this. Are there any other, are you going to refile?
Oh, we appealed. We appealed it, Jamal.
Okay. Now, are there any other, well, wait, why did the judge dismiss? What was the reason he gave?
I don't know. He had a 3.5-hour hearing where the DNC came out and said all that thing about like backroom cigars and this and that. And then the judge said, oh, wait, I have the order right here.
Because I remember he said, I take it, he said, I make the assumption that the DNC did do all of this stuff, but, and he gave some reasoning for it that didn't really make sense to me. It's like
jurisdiction. He said jurisdiction. It's a threshold. Jurisdiction is a threshold issue of whether or not this court even has the authority to hear cases of this type.
But how can the courts always, powers taken. Like that, whether people, look, people often have this idea, and I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking down. It doesn't have me mansplaining. At least that's I don't think it is. People have this tendency to think that, like Obama would say, I'm constrained by this office. You're not constrained by the office. Power is taken. If that judge wanted to make that case, that judge could have made that case. Now, and there may be somebody who maybe come behind him and say, oh, you know, you can't do this. But, oh, come on, man. It's like you're admitting, saying, yes, for sake of argument, I assume for the moment that fraud has taken place. But I can't do anything about the fraud that has taken place. So how do you, it's like, what's the remedy? If the court system itself is not the remedy, if the court says, hands off, I'm abdicating authority from this. I don't want to have any part of this. Then whose authority on it? You're not going to get it through the parties. That's
the great question. Well, the court said the court said that you know, it does not think that it has jurisdiction. The only remedy available to us is in the ballot box.
But that's insane. This is aggravating. I'm sorry, this is aggravating. The judge is essentially saying, yes, fraud is taking place. For the sake of argument, and the judge is not saying fraud is taking place. He's saying for sake of argument. He's saying I have to assume that fraud is taking place. I just don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Your thing is a ballot box, but it's like, but wait a minute, we're telling you that they cheated this guy in the ballot box. It's like you're telling us to go back to the ballot box, the thing that they used to cheat the guy in the first place. That makes no sense. That just makes no sense. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. That.
Well, you know,
what am I missing on this? Am I missing?
No. Yeah. Well, let me give you one interpretation that may be a little bit more encouraging, not by much.
Okay. Go for it.
This is
brighten my day.
Okay. So this lawsuit is a class action. Now, the thing about class actions is many people can file them, hiring their own attorney. They're called copycats. And if you have more than, I think, 3 or 5 of the same type of class actions, it's called a multi-district litigation. It's called an MDL. And there's an MDL courthouse, and they bring all these plaintiffs' lawyers that are fighting over the same class action. And it's like a beauty contest. Like you go in front of this, no, literally you see these lawyers and they're like, I have a law firm of 50 people and we've gotten these types of class actions, pick us. And then somebody else was like, you know, we've gotten this type of, we're highly regarded in this area, your honors. It's like a literal beauty contest. I've been to an MDO.
Yeah.
No women. It's like 200 men jogging, 200 sweaty, greedy lawyers jockeying for a piece of the pie, and like 2 women. I've never seen. Oh, and they're all white too. I've never seen anything like it. It's awesome. Like all fucking like overweight white men sitting around, and they're all like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be racist here. I'm just
you're fine. Do your thing. Look, there's no judgment here. Do your thing.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. White male attorneys. I'm not trying to be racist. I'm calling it like I see it.
You're just saying it like it is. It's just a flat fact.
No, seriously, they are white. They are male. A lot of them are overweight. They look like they had a lot of martini and steak dinners. And, you know, they're like, and they're all like, you know, throwing their weight around. That's how class actions work. Okay. And there's a panel of judges up there. And I don't want to be ageist, but they all look like they're like 200 years old.
You know, let me say one thing.
Very wise, but
let me say one thing.
Like, what?
Because I don't want people to be like, she's bashing white men. Look, sometimes whites. Let me explain whites to whites.
I'll talk about race, man. I
don't mind talking about race.
Man, I'll talk about Asian people. You know, Koreans can't even speak English right. You know, like you talk to a Korean person, they're like, "Would you like some chocolate?" And you're like, "What?"
No, I don't think you're being.
Korean. I can make fun of Koreans.
I don't think you're being SJW. I don't think you're being racist.
Would you like some chocolate? Oh, sometimes I'll make fun of anybody. What are you making fun of my English?
White men would be like, she's bashing whites. It's not that, dude. Sometimes from our perspective, from a perspective of somebody who's from not of that ilk, there's a thing of the perspective that the people take. It's like if you have a situation where you have that many white men, and that's the overwhelming majority of it, there's a very particular perspective that's represented in that demographic. Like it's not. All right. It's not bashing. It's just flat fact.
All right, I'm going to say something that's really going to be inflammatory.
Go for it. Inflamed stuff.
So, okay, so the NFL has been in the news a lot. And basically, yes, with Colin Kaepernick and all the take the knee thing. But even before that, there has been stuff coming out about how playing football for a prolonged period of time may cause permanent brain damage in the form of what is called CTE. And what CTE does is, because I represent the estate of a footballer, Mr. Cookie Gilchrist. He's passed now, but I represent his family. And what CTE does is, if you look at the brain of a person with CTE after they're dead, obviously. You can't do it through a CAT scan or anything. I think you have to literally like look at the brain. Out. Yeah. It's different. It's smaller, it's shrunken, there's a lot of problems. And CTE evidences itself by aberrant behavior. A lot of they can be like rageaholics.
Even memory loss. Troy Aikman.
Memory loss, it just makes you paranoid. Yeah. So the NFL knew this. Okay, they knew this. They just they hid it. Well, so a class action was filed. A class action was filed, and they entered into a crappy settlement. The plaintiffs' lawyers, like crappy. And I think I may have attended a hearing on the NFL thing, and all I saw were white men All I saw were white men jockeying for this NFL settlement.
Let me ask you this.
And I was like, look at all these white guys trying to make a buck off the back of.
Yeah. It's capitalist society. I mean, the society itself pushes people to behave a particular way.
There's no African-American lawyers there. There's no women either.
Let me ask you this. When they do that, when they have that settlement like that, does that affect all of the players or only the players?
Yes. No, it affects all of them.
Okay.
It's a crappy settlement, but it got railroaded through, so.
Yeah, Troy Aikman doesn't remember his Super Bowl. Like, if you hit, I could be wrong with this, but Troy Aikman used to get hit so much. He used to get hit so much. And he used to be so out of it, and yet he would still go out there and play the game. He still go out there and play the game. What other legal means are at your disposal to go after the DNC? I think I
filed the appeal. Now I probably have a bunch of white people angry at me. Listen, people, look.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
You know, when I was 9 years, let me tell you, I grew up. Let me tell you something. Jamal, let me tell you something. I gotta make something very clear. I grew up in an immigrant single parent home. Okay, it was just my mother and me. I never knew my father. I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly Spanish speaking. Okay. Mexicans, Salvadoranians, I'm talking Los Angeles. And then when I was 9 years old, I went and lived with an African-American family in South Central Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Okay. You know the movie Friday?
Yeah.
That house was like Friday. I swear to God. Right? I was like, Friday. Without the weed. I didn't see any drugs. I didn't see any drugs. But it was just like, I was sitting on the stoop. It was just like people walking by. They were all characters too.
Yeah.
And then I went and lived with a white family in Orange County. It was like a world apart.
So you've been all over.
I've been all over. So I feel very comfortable talking about race. It don't make me feel queasy.
Me either. I am okay with it.
But some people are queasy. They're like, I'm like, do you think we could all be racist? And they're like, oh, don't call me racist. I'm not racist. I'm like, I think you are. And then they stop talking to you for 3 days.
No, I don't mind talking about race. It doesn't bother me in the least. I don't want anybody to be hateful, and I don't want anybody to be belligerent. But no, I don't mind having a conversation about race.
Man, I've had people be belligerent. When I did the laws, when I came out in the New York Times and talked about the deposition that I took of Donald Trump, and it all went to shit because he ran out.
Donald Trump ran out the deposition?
Yeah.
Whoa! I didn't know about this one. You had a deposition with Donald Trump? What was the deposition on?
Fraud.
For what? Fraud for what? What was
real estate fraud.
And he ran out the deposition. What did you ask him that made him run out the deposition? Like, what was the question? What was the question where Donald Trump said, I got to get out of here?
I don't know. I didn't think it was that big deal, but he flipped out. It involved a lunch break because I had a medical reason that I needed to take a lunch break. And he got it into his head that we weren't going to break for lunch. But I had made plans. See, I had plans to use my lunch break for some personal business. So I got irritated, as you can imagine, because I get irritated. All right. And I'm like, no, we're breaking for lunch. And he flipped out. And I told him I had to tell the whole room why I needed that damn lunch break. I managed to keep it a secret. And I finally had to tell him why I needed my damn lunch break. And it was a medical reason.
Yeah.
And he thought it was disgusting. So he can go fuck himself. It's not disgusting.
Wow, that's amazing.
I don't know.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Okay, I'm not going to ask the follow-up question to that,
No,
even
you
though
can
I
ask
really
whatever
want to
you
ask the
want.
follow-up question.
But then when that happened, oh no, I had a 3-month-old baby that my in-laws were babysitting. I was in New York, and I was breastfeeding my baby. And so
that's not disgusting. That's
when you well, yeah, it's like changing diapers.
Yeah, it's just breastfeeding.
But it's just like it's part of life.
And for him, he thought that was beyond the pale. How dare you breastfeed that child? I don't want you breastfeeding that child during my deposition.
He's not the Pope. I'm sure he's seen a lot of titties in his life, and I certainly wasn't showing him mine. I don't know since when he got so squeamish. It was so bizarre. It's totally weird. But anyway, when that happened, I came forward with the story because I thought, well, the guy's running for president. I think people have a right to know.
Yeah.
And so when I came forward, man, you should have seen all these people on all these like Breitbart websites. They were like going full on vindictive, racist on me.
Yeah. Well,
you know? But that's what they do. That's what people do. When people are pissed off, they're going to make fun of your weight. They're going to make fun of your gender. They're going to make fun of your height. They're going to make fun of your race. They're going to make fun of everything.
Low-hanging fruit. Whatever they get.
Fruit, you know?
Low-hanging fruit. So let me ask you this. You and I can talk forever, I think. What are the legal means? All right. When Jared Beck was on, I had the opportunity to speak with your husband. I asked him, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are two corporations.
Yeah.
Being two corporations, they've cornered the market in regards to the political apparatus in our country. It's like you have a bus. Let's say that bus was America, and you have one or other party making a determination to ride that bus, to be the bus driver. But they're just corporations. They're just things unto themselves. Antitrust lawsuits seems to be the thing that's break up monopolies.
Antitrust is dead. Antitrust is dead. Thank you, Supreme Court.
But can't antitrust, so wait, so there's no such thing, so monopolies are fair game in the United States now?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of, oh God, I hope I don't get disbarred for that arm gesture now. I take it back.
Nobody's going to disbar you for an arm gesture.
I take it back. Yeah, let me tell you something. I'm only doing that because a lot of lawyers are very upset with our Supreme Court. I'm not the only one.
The Supreme Court is batshit crazy. Put it this way,
I think history is going to prove our current Supreme Court to be disgraceful.
Oh, it's beyond disgraceful.
When I'm long
dead and gone, they're going to go after all sorts of stuff.
When I'm long dead and gone, the history books will paint this court as a dark period in the court's history. If this country survives.
The wild part about it.
If this republic survives, yeah.
The wild part about it is it was Obama's choice for Supreme Court nominee. And the Republican Party, for the most part, they would never take recess. So they wouldn't allow him to actually put somebody into that position. Now, if I was Obama, I would have said, I'm putting somebody in a position, you're going to take me to court to do something about it. And I would have put somebody in that slot. Sure. Yes, you could take me to court. Yes, let that stuff run through the legal thing or whatever else. But ultimately, I'm going to put somebody in that spot. You guys can go fuck yourself. Right. Now, Obama didn't want to do that. He was terrified of doing that. And so he allowed them to run out the clock. Even, mind you, even after Hillary lost, he still allowed them to run out the clock and allowed them to put that batshit crazy maniac Gorish in that position. Weakness. That's all I mean. It's weak.
Why is he so weak? Maybe they have things on him.
I don't think they have things on him. I just think he's weak in this regard.
Well, there is this guy named George Webb.
I've heard of George Webb.
Okay. I know the New York Times called him like some insane provocateur. I don't know what the hell George Webb is. All I know is he's like some guy that came out of retirement. He used to be a salesman.
Yeah.
The world is so crazy. So George Webb, he's like this, he's a retiree. He's not retired anymore though. And he runs around the country sweating into his phone, doing live streams. Okay. But he shut down a port. Who the hell shuts down a port and lives to tell it?
Right.
Okay. So anyway, George Webb tells me Congress, 3/4 are compromised. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Compromised means that they've done something bad that the public doesn't know, but it makes them vulnerable to blackmail.
Yeah.
So it's the cover-up a lot of times that's worse than the crime. So for example, I just told you that I don't shower every day. Okay? But imagine if somebody knew that about me and I was deathly afraid of the public knowing. All of a sudden, I'm compromised. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You're making the argument that it's possible that Obama's not necessarily weak. They just have something on him.
Yes. I think they may have a lot of things on a lot of people. If you think about it, it's a way to control people. I don't know. I really don't want to go into Obama on this call.
We weren't going into Obama. I guess I was just kind of making this point of what are the legal means? Because I guess my feeling is the political apparatus is broken, and maybe not necessarily broken completely, but it feels like the political apparatus itself just doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then you have what are the other branches of government that you can use to attack that political apparatus? Maybe even kind of creating a wedge that would allow a third party to come in. If antitrust is dead, Oh, we're screwed. We're screwed.
I mean, if you want to take a very optimistic, hold on, Jamaro, I got to go back to my pre-2016 Democratic primary days and try to bring back that optimistic.
The optimism.
Wait. Come back. All right. So if I were to be really optimistic, I would say, our Congress is compromised. The presidency is compromised. I know our court system is compromised, but maybe there's a few good men and women in there that'll help stem the tide. For example, it would be up to the courts to overturn whatever trajectory our antitrust laws have been on, and all the other laws. But I don't know, Jamal, if there are enough.
My feeling is,
I don't see it.
No. I take a slightly, I guess I take a slightly darker view of, I don't think, okay, let me say it this way. Compromise, yes, but I think they're compromised in a different way.
Okay.
So if you get $1 billion to run in an election, and the people that you're talking to that take that $1 billion, like the people who you're on the phone with, are saying, we need you to do X if you want to get this cash.
Yeah.
Now, Obama was trying to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership even up until the point where he left his presidency.
Yeah.
There were reports of people saying, I hadn't heard from Obama for the entire time he was in office until he talked about the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
TPP,
now,
yeah.
The TPP.
And that was a bad law, wasn't it?
Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
TPP scared the shit out of me.
It scared the shit out of me too. And that was this thing where you're seeing Obama saying, TPP is awesome. It's a progressive thing. It's et cetera, et cetera. And you're reading the bill yourself from WikiLeaks and you're like, this man is fucking insane. Right. Like, he is lying to me. He's lying through his teeth. They're giving up United States sovereignty over to these multinational corporations.
Nightmare. You're bringing back nightmares again. You're bringing back TPP nightmares.
Yeah, that's my point. That where if you're looking at this and like, this
bad.
guy's lying. Like, Elizabeth Warren comes out on a warpath. And
sorry.
Trust me.
Sorry, that was uncalled for. Jamal, that was uncalled for.
You're fine. You're
Jamal's
fine.
like, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see her do that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I don't.
So Elizabeth Warren's on the warpath, huh?
Yeah, she was on the warpath. Oh, because she was right. She's like 3% Native American or something. Right. Donald Trump was joking about the Native American
sort of like session at Harvard. That's what I read.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know if that's true though. Like, I don't know if she got any special permissions. I wish I would have known you can get that special permission. I would have used that for mine. My grandfather was Cherokee, and even my grandmother's side has some kind of Native American heritage. I would have, but beyond that,
but it wasn't true. I don't think it was true. She actually recanted and said, "It's just been a family story because I have high cheekbones," and I'm like, that's not even 3%, Senator Warren. In Korea, we have a myth. In Korea, back when Korea was one country, we have a myth that some maiden mated with a tiger and created the Korean peoples.
That's fascinating.
Okay? I'm not going to claim I got like tiger blood in me.
You should.
Okay? That's a myth. So Senator Warren, there's a difference between 3% and myth.
Let me ask you this. So are you South Korean or North Korean?
Yeah, so it was all one country not too long ago.
Yeah. Well,
I
guess what I'm asking is, okay, so you consider yourself just Korean. You don't necessarily.
No, I consider myself South Korean. It's kind of like a person who was born in Germany after it became East and West Germany. They would consider themselves a West German.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
What do you think about what's going on now? Do you have familial ties to?
I really don't. I really don't. I think I have like some really distant relatives in Korea. Distant, mm-hmm. and we're not on good terms with them apparently because I'm not really sure, but it just involves like death and just it's a saga.
Yeah.
Basically, my grandfather, his wives kept dying on him because times were tough. Women kept dying in childbirth, and my grandmother was his third wife. And when they had a stepmom. Hello? Uh-oh.
Oh, come back.
Okay, I'm back.
There you
I'm
are.
back. So anyway, yeah.
Follow the light. Follow the light.
No, so back to the whole like Korea thing. It was all one country prior to what, the Korean War. I was born in 74, but my mother lived through the Korean War. She was like a refugee and everything. Yeah, she had like, they would put all their belongings in a rucksack and put it on their heads, and they would like, because the communist Chinese came really, it came down the whole peninsula, and then the Allied forces pushed them back up, and then they finally settled on the 58th parallel.
Well,
or the 40, whatever parallel that is.
Well, yeah, but the Chinese forces came in because the American troops were encroaching on China. If I'm not mistaken, the United States started. It's funny when you listen to the military generals and stuff like that back in those days. The president was like, "What are you going to do? Start a war with China? Get those people out there." And like you said, the military pulled back at the point where the Chinese came in, the communists came in. America doesn't get the opportunity. Well, it's not an opportunity. America doesn't live through hard times in that way. Like we don't have this thing etched in our consciousness of being bombed or have military troops or having to run from one state to
no, we were never occupied. Right.
Yeah, we were never occupied. So for us, well, yeah, bombing is not that bad. It's okay to bomb another country, not necessarily fully grasping the reality of the situation of being bombed. I suspect that European countries are different in this regard. I think to some degree that's why they're different in regards to war policy. They've been bombed.
Yes.
They know the horror of it.
Yes.
We don't.
Yes, they have.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I'm always amazed by people who their stories when they're talking about things that they lived through in those type of situations.
I didn't live through it. My mom did, but
no, your mom.
But yeah, I don't really know what's going on in Korea right now. There has been talk, Jamarl, that North Korea is nothing more than a CIA-run state. How true that is, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
I was talking to a guy in downtown Miami. He was a repair guy, and he was Cuban American. And he told me that his parents always suspected that Fidel Castro struck a deal with the CIA, and the CIA had a stronghold in Cuba. And Cuba was not vis-a-vis antagonistic to the US or the CIA. That was all part of a dog and pony show. That's what his parents suspected. But who the heck knows?
They tried to kill Castro on numerous occasions, though. Like they literally tried to murder the guy on like multiple occasions.
Yeah, maybe they were trying to do that and be like, okay, we're gonna send you poison cigars unless you play ball with us. And Castro was like, oh, Dios mío, why not?
Then why the Russian weapons? Why would the Soviet Union put weapons in Cuba if it wasn't for Oh man, when I was
I don't know. You're going into the myths of history.
Yeah, when I was
I barely know history.
No, you're. I'm pretty sure you're extraordinarily competent in history. Well, when I was abroad, those guys, you'd be in Egypt and you'd be like at a coffee shop or something, and they'll talk about how how the United States is involved in XYZ in their country, or I don't know if you remember, they were hitting Hillary Clinton's caravan with shoes and whatnot. They were beating their cars. It was going through the streets. This was when she was Secretary of State. And it had something to do with because they thought that Hillary Clinton was the person, or that the United States put in, I think it was Morsi or whatever his name, Morsi, after the Egyptian. My memory's sketchy on this, so I'm not going to go too far into this one. But it was something. I do remember they were hitting her car with shoes because they had this conspiracy theory that she had something to do with setting the government up the way it was. That's something fascinating. When people don't know, they come cling to stuff.
I mean,
yeah, when people don't know, they cling to it.
I don't know. Our country seems to be involved. If you look at all the old empires, a lot of times right before they fall, there's a common collection of things that they do. They have expensive wars abroad.
Yeah.
They tax their people very highly.
Yeah.
And the people in power are very depraved.
And open about it.
Rome was like that.
Yeah. And open. Like it's not even like hidden anymore. Like if you look at what would take, Richard Nixon was terrified. That he was going to lose his position. Like, so much, he was like putting buses around the White House, all this stuff. He was like, Henry, they're going to get me. They're coming to get me.
He was right.
he was right. They did take him out that office, but they took him out the office. Like, if you remember, Republicans voted to impeach Nixon.
Yeah.
So this wasn't this situation, and this was their guy. Like, this wasn't a situation where Nixon skated. Now, you have a situation where the United States president goes in any country that he wants, bombing. Nobody says squat. He has no justification to do so, meaning he has no congressional justification to go into one country after the next and bombing. Nobody says squat. They allow him to do it. The other president, Donald Trump, they never look at the actual things. So when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, they had her dead to rights in the Clinton Foundation with regards to pay-for-play politics. Nobody said squat. They just kept going. Like you said, Bill Clinton out in the voting precinct, illegal. Nobody said squat. Now, if a cop would have caught somebody with marijuana, they would have locked that kid up. Bill Clinton was able to, rally about. Nobody said squat. Oh, it's the president. It's Bill Clinton. He's, whatever. It's open. What the Republicans are doing in that position, even what the Democrats are doing, when you're talking about these tax cuts, when you're talking about these wars abroad, militarism, it's in the open. They don't even hide it anymore. It's not like they're hiding what they're doing in regards to, yes, we're getting tax cuts to the rich. That's what we're going to do. We are going to take away your health care, and we're going to put, health, even though 20 million people are still uninsured. Yes, we're going to take away your health care. And in doing so, we're going to give ourselves a massive tax cut. What are you going to do about it? It's so open. It's so open. It's so in your face.
No.
That's terrifying. Somebody wanted me to ask you about your husband's book. Your husband is writing a book.
He is writing a book. He got set back by Hurricane Irma for a few days. And each time but he's writing a book. He is working so hard on this. He just day and night. You think I don't shower?
What is the book on? He's saving time writing a book but not showering.
He comes out of his room. His hair is like, he's not wearing it. He's just wearing his underwear. Comes out of his like little hidey hole man cave room. Yeah. The one where I put signs that says "Do not enter." I put up those signs on his door because if you open the door, he'll like yell at you. Oh, he's that's like, I'm working. So I put like signs on it: "Do not enter private property." But anyway, he'll come out of there and he'll look at me. He'll say, "I need coffee," and then he'll just run back in. And bossing me around. And so I start muttering myself. I'm like, "Yes, sire. I'll make you your coffee, sire." So I make his damn coffee. But yeah, he's writing his book. The publisher is Skyhorse Publishing, and they want to publish it as soon as possible, but there's a push and pull between the publisher, who wants to publish as soon as possible, and Jared, the author, who wants to make it perfect, and I'm stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Because
so the book is about the lawsuit?
The book is a response book to Secretary Clinton's What Happened.
Oh, this should be good. That should be good.
It is going to be good because unlike somebody said that Secretary Clinton, I don't mean any disrespect, but somebody said that Secretary Clinton's book sounds like Dear Diary.
Yeah.
Dear Diary, I woke up today and nobody liked me. It's because I'm a woman, isn't it? Right? Whereas Jared's book has a lot of footnotes.
Oh,
okay?
God.
Okay, his book, one of the reasons it's so painful for him to write is that it's not a bitch fest.
Yeah.
Okay, his book is not going to be a bitch fest. It's going to be accurate, and it's going to be very, very well cited and educational. Let me put it this way. It's a type of book that you would not be ashamed to put a bow on and gift to your sweet Aunt Bertha, who just loved Clinton so much. I just can't understand why she didn't get elected. I don't know what happened. So, right? So you can be like, Auntie, I got you a book for Christmas. I think you will find this helpful. And if she reads it, it's not an insulting book.
I see what you mean.
Right. Okay. Right. It's going to tell the story of what really happened so that people be like, oh, I didn't really know this happened. That's terrible.
See, it's funny. Hillary, I would see some Hillary supporters online. And sometimes they would say something, and I have to be honest, it sets me off a little bit. And I guess I get a little...
what could they possibly tell you, a Bernie bro, that would piss you off?
It's attacking Susan Sarandon.
You Bernie bro.
Yeah, right. I'm totally being a Bernie bro. It's like, oh, it's because she has a vagina that we're upset about it. No, this woman online, she said something like, I should have said fuck you to Susan Sarandon earlier. And it's like,
I'm sorry, who Susan Sarandon, is she who is she for? I don't even know.
Susan Sarandon came out and said maybe Donald Trump will bring on the revolution.
Oh.
Now, when she said that, people's heads exploded. It was what? It was like, how dare she not get behind and vote for Hillary Clinton? How dare you? And Susan Sarandon stuck to her guns.
Susan Sarandon's like, I made enough money. My movie royalties are safely invested.
Yeah, I'm good.
So I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah.
I'm old. Hollywood's not going to give me any movie roles anyway. We know how that works. Okay? Because I got a little bit of crow's feet going on. You know, you're not going to give me any more movies. So I'm going to come out and say what the hell I want. Roseanne Barr is the same way. She's on some ranch somewhere saying whatever the hell she wants now. Good for her.
Roseanne, really? I haven't heard from Roseanne.
No, Roseanne is like on, she's like in some ranch. She like something like tweets whatever the hell she wants. And she takes selfies of herself and her pets and just like a normal person. And she'll talk about MK Ultra and mind control.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I love it when people are themselves. Like most of the time in our society, we have this thing. We have a capitalistic society, right? It's you're going to need the job. You're going to need something for some means of subsistence. If you don't toe a particular line, you're not going to eat. You're not going to sleep. You're not going to have somewhere to live. You're not going to, you know, your resources, the things that you need to live off, are not going to be available to you. So fall in line. Don't say X. Don't do Y. So I like it when people are actually people. I like when people are actually people. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I need to. That's awesome. So what does your husband diagnose the reason that Hillary Clinton lost? So none of the garbage, you know, Hillary Clinton listing from A to Z, you know, and there's an alphabet for each person that failed her in some way that helped her lose the election. What's Jared Beck's, and for that matter, what's your assessment of it?
Well, I can't really talk too much about it. It's a work in progress, but I can tell you that the answer is it's not any one person, but why that is, you'll have to buy his book.
Oh, fair enough. Trying to get a sneak peek. So some of the audience was like, ask her about the book. And it was like, there's a book? What's the book? It just goes from there.
I have told Skyhorse, I'm like, is there going to be pre-orders taken? Somebody sent me a check.
Really?
They literally sent me a check for $27. And they said, this is a pre-order. I'm not even asking for it. So what I did was I may have even taken a picture of the check and I sent it to the publisher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we doing pre-orders? Because people are sending me money and I'm not even asking for it. They're probably like, ah! Oh, that should have come to us. Why are they sending it to her? She's just married to the author. No. So hopefully they'll get some sort of like
ordering system or something. Yeah,
but I think it'll go up after they have a handle on when the release date is, and they'll have a handle on the release date when they get the manuscript. Okay. And so Jared is currently he's writing like a machine.
Yeah.
He's kind of like he's kind of like Secretariat, the horse, you know. He is writing like a tremendous machine. So hopefully he'll zoom across that finish line and the manuscript will be done and we'll hand it off to to Mr. Gompertz, his publisher.
Yeah.
Did you know that Jared's publisher is from Queens?
I did not know that.
Okay. I didn't think it was such a big deal because my father-in-law is from Queens. But I found out that people from Queens don't want to talk about it. And I'm trying to figure out why.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm not from Queens. All I know is I love Queens.
That's so weird. There's a chess club in Queens. The Judith Polgar Chess Club is in Queens.
Oh,
I think it's Judith Polgar. It's one of the chess clubs. That when I go to New York, I tended to try to find one of the chess clubs and one of the tournaments.
Oh, that's
or the park, for that matter.
I like Queens. I the few times I was in New York, I would go exploring and I would like walk around Queens. But I'm like, hey, Gompertz, are you from Queens? And he's like, yeah, why? And I'm like, because I saw something online that said you were from Queens. And I said, and then he responds by saying, I thought I got rid of all of that. Like,
trying to strong my identity.
It's like, you want to pretend you're not from Queens? What's wrong with being from Queens?
So
Anyway.
one last question: is there anything? And do you have time for maybe 1 or 2 audience questions?
Of course.
I see where people. Okay, so if you had something that you wanted to get across, what would that be? Whatever that is, it could be anything. Is there something that you want to give to the audience? Maybe about the lawsuit, and maybe something just about the country as a whole. It could be anything, whatever you want. It's an expansive question.
I want to thank, because we got one rejection already. I want to thank the public because I put a PSA on Facebook. I put a video saying, if you want to buy the book, please let me know in the comments. And people responded.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I sent that link to Skyhorse and I said, please look at the comments. And then we finalized the contract soon after.
Nice, nice.
So I want to thank all of those people. So that's what I want to get out there. And then by doing that, it allows our law firm to keep the lights on and keep going. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
These courts, I'm telling you, they're trying to choke me.
That's awesome. I mean, not the choking part. I'm happy about the that the public responded in that way.
No, it's nice. You know,
that's so cool.
I don't file lawsuits because I like the court system. I file lawsuits because I get hired. So.
Who's like keep the lights on? All right, guys. If you have any questions, this will be the time to ask. Ask
me anything.
I've kept this nice woman on for God knows how long. Let's see.
Ask me anything.
Let's see.
Almost anything. I should qualify.
What's it? Almost anything. Yeah. Let's put a caveat on that one. BB Hammer says, "Wow, what a way to get a book deal! That is a way to get a book deal.
It's a new way to get a book deal." Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's.
We know nobody in the publishing industry. We know no one.
Yeah. It was just
no contacts.
There was so much
contacts. No contacts. Absolutely no contacts. Jared has never written. He's never been published before. So.
At all, for anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not for a book, no.
Yogi Fish asks, "Will you ever go into politics?"
No.
Why not? You wanted somebody of integrity. Why not?
First of all, I think there's a lot of people with integrity. I think there's a certain skill set that I think, even if you're a politician from hell or a politician from heaven, I think there's a certain skill set that you need to have. Yeah. One of which is you're polite and you listen to people. And the job doesn't appeal to me at any level. Huh. It's like if you were like to ask me, so Elizabeth, would you like to run a daycare center? I mean, it's a great job, but I would no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I like kids, but no, I don't want to. It's just there's nothing about it that appeals to me. My dream job is.
You're not doing it, a lawyer. I mean, and the reason why I say that is, when something happens, you were able to respond to something that was taking place in the public. An ordinary person, me as a software engineer, any response that I take is going to be within the skill set that I have. Software, that's pretty no response. But in your case, you actually was able to bring a case against the Democratic Party, one of the two parties that are in this country. And at the very least, hold up this thing of saying, we're not going to go silently into that good night. We're actually going to rail against what we're taking as being unfairness and cheating in our society. I don't know any other profession that would have allowed a fast response in that way.
Well, you know, I actually tried to leave the law profession a couple of years ago. I was part of a syndicate that put in an application to grow medical cannabis in Maryland.
Nice.
But we didn't get the license, even though I was part of a really amazing group of people, very talented, very dedicated, because Maryland gave it to law enforcement, lobbyists, and Democratic politicians.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. But I'm like, if you spent your life jailing people who smoke cannabis, how can you suddenly see them as patients?
That is a little weird, right? That is a little strange. It's you can have an alcoholic cop. That cop can be dropped down drunk most of the time, but he would lock you up a pot, and he would get on a high horse about it. Well, I mean, this is against the law. You shouldn't be doing this. And blah, blah, blah.
But it's the thing about cannabis is I do think there are absolutely medicinal aspects to it.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I mean,
But for me, whether it's medicinal or not, ultimately you're putting somebody in a cage for smoking a plant.
well,
Even
yeah, there's a lot wrong with that. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
what 25% of the country now is legal, if I'm not mistaken. Like it's like the slow, takeover of the country, state by state by state. I think it's also a little weird that in one state you can be perfectly okay, and then the very next state you can go to prison. I just find it amazing.
Yeah. Also, even within a state, I think it's not equally applied. I was reading, I think, was it in New Mexico? Some state where it was like in sort of like a partially legal status. Law enforcement would only go into certain types of neighborhoods to arrest people for illegal possession, but not others, because it was low-hanging fruit. And that always really bothered me because, when I was in high school, I went to a public high school in urban Los Angeles, and we were given the DARE program. And I thought anybody who used drugs was just a criminal because I was 16 and stupid. And I was very, very black and white about that. And then when I went to law school, I saw all these kids at Yale Law School smoking out. And it was such a deal to me. I'm like, how come you're not in jail?
It's like, what, 75% of the public is smoking pot or something like that?
It wasn't legal in Connecticut. So I'm like, why aren't you guys in jail? So I was like, wait a minute. This doesn't seem right. Because I was taught that if you smoke cannabis,
you're a criminal.
You're a criminal, and I believed it. And if I ever saw somebody get arrested for that, I'll be like, serves you right. And then I went here and I'm like, the laws don't apply to these people. They were at Yale Law School, and I'm sure they were functional people, and they were law-abiding people for the most part, I would imagine. And I'm sure they're productive people now.
It's just, if you make
it bothered the shit out of me. I won't name names.
Oh no, I don't want you to name names. If you make a law that goes full well against what people, the drug thing is insane to me. All drugs should be legal. Like, we're literally creating this kind of black market in Mexico that's creating these drug gangs and everything else that sometimes are near the United States border, but essentially are putting drugs into the country. But we're causing drug wars other places in order to meet the needs of Americans' drug fetish. It should be legal. It's like, deal with it from a medical standpoint. Don't put people in cages. Like, we're literally taking people and putting them in cages for making a personal choice. That's amazing to me. That's amazing.
I don't even think it's the drug laws. I'm beginning to think that every single law in the books that you can imagine in this country is not applied equally at all.
No, it's not. It's not. If you have, when they did that thing in Ohio, I think it was they killed that black guy in Ohio, and they also murdered that guy in I think it was Maryland, and they did Baltimore, Maryland, and the United States Eric Holder, one of the good things that he did do was put through this kind of investigation in both states. And they found that, like you said, these things weren't applied equally. They were focusing on certain people. So you have a situation where everybody in the country, all different demographics, use pot about the same amount, even though African Americans get locked up 4 times more. And that you look at that stat and you're like, wait a minute, how does that happen? If all of these racial groups use it at the exact same amount, how on earth are you locking up one demographic?
No, I completely agree. Let's broaden it, though.
Yeah.
So let's talk about child porn.
Yeah.
So Jared was in federal court once, and his hearing was coming up, but he got there a little bit earlier. So he was watching the prior hearing.
Yeah.
And this was a prior hearing. This was in federal court in the Southern District of Florida. And it was a homeless guy. He was a homeless vet. Mm-hmm. And I guess he was using the free computer systems at the Veterans Administration, because I guess they have computers. Mm-hmm. And I guess this guy watched some kiddie porn on the internet. And they caught him. You with me?
Yeah.
So he got hauled into court, and Jared said that he was standing there. I don't want people to think that by saying this, I'm trying to condone, child porn or anything.
On my channel, I parse stuff all the time on my channel. Most of the people who watch this, they tend to be a little bit brighter.
The point I'm trying to make is, equal application of the law. So eye on the prize, people, equal application of the law. So this guy, he was shaking. He was like scared out of his wits. He was like browsing on the internet, saw some kiddie porn. And he was going to go to prison for like a long, long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he had some public defender. Nobody in that courtroom was there except Jared sitting in the back row because he was waiting for his civil hearing to come up. Okay. And he goes, ah! And, you know, the judge threw the book at him because that's just what you do. Okay. Fine. But then you have people like that DuPont guy in the state of, was it Maryland?
Yeah.
Okay. Very wealthy, very connected family. He didn't watch kiddie porn. He raped his stepdaughter. She was like 4.
Wow.
I mean, how the hell do you have sex with a baby? But he raped his baby. And the judge was like, and he got a high-powered lawyer. Everybody in the state knew him. And, you know, his lawyer said he suffered enough.
Yeah,
and the judge
he's not a
was
bad guy. Yeah, he's not a bad guy.
And the judge was like, I understand. And no jail time. And that judge got promoted. So the point I'm trying to make is this unequal whether it's the incarceration of possession of marijuana that's based on gender and race, or the application of certain types of crime such as child abuse or the possession of child porn. These are not, none of these laws are applied equally. And I think these laws may be used to control people.
They are. I mean, if you're thinking about it, the population itself. It's almost like the laws are, it just depends on the person who they're being applied against. Like you said, they're not applied equally. Yeah. Well.
You know, I remember in New Haven, I was driving my car and I had 3 people in the car, and this woman like made a wrong turn and she hit my car, and I was like, what the fuck? And she comes out and she's like, she comes up to me and apparently she was arguing with her boyfriend on her cell phone and she got really agitated. And so she hit my car and she looks at me and she says, my brother's a cop. Nothing's going to happen to me. And you know what? Nothing happened to her.
Wow.
I remember thinking, wait a minute, you hit my car. So I called local law enforcement and I saw the 2 of them talking, and the cop comes over to me and he starts arguing with me like he's her lawyer.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, aren't you going to issue a police report? And he's like, no, it's you. He said, she said. I'm like, what?
That never flies. That's amazing. Under any other normal situation, the cop would write a ticket.
She's just one person. I got a car full of witnesses. And then he has the nerve to say to me, well, they're all your friends. Like they would lie. You know? And I'm like, you know, in hindsight, as far as like injustices that you experience, that was like small fry. So I got like a...
It's still a pain in the ass. Come on,
but
it's still a pain in the ass.
It's just, why do we have a system like that? Everybody's on a fucking ticket. And then in New York, you see this crazy stuff about 2 law enforcement officers. I don't want this show to be about me bashing law enforcement. That's not either. I bash lawyers plenty, so everybody needs to just settle down.
Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that.
I'm giving you facts.
I am
not anti-LEO.
I am immensely antagonistic to law enforcement. So you've said nothing that I haven't said. I'm
just giving you facts, you know. And then the bottom line is, you know, it's like the DNC, and you asked me why I voted for Trump, and it's because I won't tolerate bad behavior. The problem that I see in law enforcement is, I don't know why this is so, but any law enforcement officer that does bad behavior, they're not penalized. That's the problem. So you can have teachers, lawyers, doctors, but if you don't have penalties for bad behavior, it's going to grow like a cancer.
Yeah.
So of course, I'm not saying
they
that cops are
shot
bad.
Rice, a 12-year-old.
What's that?
But see, I do think most cops are bad. Like I don't have this belief that it's a bad apple. I have this assumption that most cops are bad. I think they're training. Like I think it's.
Well, they're
I believe
bad.
That the training
Tomorrow,
system
I think they're bad the way most lawyers are bad.
Oh wow!
So I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah, most cops are bad the way most lawyers are bad. They don't do enough. They're like, I'm just going to go in and do my job, and you know, I'm just.
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
That's what you're saying.
But isn't it? Yeah, I see what you mean. I can you can make an argument that's anybody though, like any kind of enterprise where a person is using their energies in their body to do something. There's a finite amount of labor that they're going to put into it that they're being paid for. I understand that. That makes sense.
Well,
let me ask you this. Somebody asked.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
No, go ahead.
Somebody asked Bernie Sanders. So the lawsuit was, and I found this to be interesting myself. You guys did a lawsuit against the DNC.
Keep talking about me. I don't want to be forgotten. Right. Bernie Sanders. Remember my name.
Somebody asked about.
I was big once. I had crowds like you wouldn't believe.
Well, somebody
they say I'm a nobody now.
They asked.
History books will remember. Keep talking about me, you young kids.
Someone asked if Bernie Sanders had anything to do with the lawsuit itself.
No.
And no contact at all. Just complete. I'm pretending as if the lawsuit doesn't exist. I'm not even.
I don't have anything to do with that lawsuit. I don't have. Hillary, come down. I don't have anything to do with this. It's not. I don't know who these. I don't know these people. They have a super PAC. I don't like super PACs. I know you have one, Hillary, but it's a great super PAC. But I don't have a super PAC. I don't know these people. There's some lawyers in Florida. I never talked to them.
Have you guys thought about crowdfunding? To actually set up another appeal?
We're trying to hawk a book. No, we don't want to. I don't want to take donations. Oh, look, I'm representing a bunch of people who got defrauded on donations. Donate to me. That's great. Send me money.
Come on. I mean, ultimately, we know it costs a certain amount of expense to go through a lawsuit.
Send me money. I'll work hard for you. I'll change the political system. That's right. This lawsuit will make all your dreams come true. Just send me $27. I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough.
Jesus.
Fair enough. I understand it, but I
promise you nothing. I promise you nothing. I don't even promise you to maintain my temper.
See, right there. I'm going to do this lawsuit. I'm not promising you anything. I'm not promising that it'll go through.
We'll work hard for you.
But we'll work hard.
I'm not even going to promise that I won't block you, because if you act up, I'm going to block you. And I block people.
You say you do?
I had a policy, Jamal. I had a policy of not blocking anyone. I'm like, they're all class members. I'm not going to block them. But it got too crazy. And when they started calling me cunt, that was it.
Whoa, they broke out the C word on you.
All right. Okay, they're getting verbally abusive.
Yeah, at that point, it's a fail.
Why aren't you blocking them? And I'm like, because they're class members. And they're like, you need to change that policy.
Why were they calling you a cunt?
Because they're upset.
Upset about what?
Who the hell knows? Maybe their girlfriend broke up with them. I don't know.
But they're calling you a cunt.
Maybe they're angry because Trump is president. How the hell?
Oh, they're mad because you voted for Trump? Is that what it is?
I'm not worried. I'm not a cunt. So I'm very comfortable.
No. What I'm trying to get at is because you brought this one up. They're calling your class members. Went to the C word. Yeah. They went to the
they call me C word. You have no idea. They're like, I can't believe. Some of them are more articulate. They're like, I cannot believe you. You are the most selfish person I've ever known. How dare you vote for Trump?
But I don't tolerate that type of ridiculousness.
That's okay. You should see what I respond. I'm like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, right there.
No, that's what I say in response.
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself. If you're calling me a cunt because I voted for Trump, and look, I understand your reasons for voting for Trump. That I don't think I would have went there. I couldn't make myself to do it. I have to be honest. I couldn't bring myself to it. When Trump was running around in the election, I thought to myself, there's a chance. There's a small, tiny chance that he can get in that office. He could own that office. If he did what he said he was going to do, he would have at the very least split the opposition both ways. Trump said, everybody's going to have health care. It's going to be big, beautiful health care. Right off the bat, he would have done something that Obama couldn't do. He would have actually had health care for everybody. Now, I didn't believe it, but I thought if there's an iota of a chance that he gets in office and does it, Trump will own that office. I thought if he did the minimum wage thing, again, that he would have owned that office. Trump has had a certain opportunity that he squandered. If he really, really is on this thing of personality cake where he just wants people to like him, he should have passed healthcare. He should have really pushed for it. Even if he couldn't get it through Republican Congress, he should have said, I'm going to push for single-payer healthcare. The public would have been like, holy shit, this Republican is going for single-payer healthcare, even though he has no intention whatsoever.
You know that if he did anything like that, they're going to pull like a Nixon on him.
No, they're not, because the Democrats will back them up on that. So this is what I mean by this. So you would have this situation where you're splitting the opposition. Republican Party would not go for it, but he knows the Republican Party wouldn't go for it, so he's okay with that. Now the Democrats will be forced to go for it because they would have to own up to this thing of why couldn't we cover everybody for healthcare. But at the very least, the point is Donald Trump is looking out for Donald Trump in that scenario. He said he was going to do it. He's pushing for it. No, he has no intention of doing it at all. Now the problem with it is he also said, "I'm going to get rid of Obamacare." Whoa, you can't do both. What are you going to do? Pick a pony. Now, you could have gotten rid of Obamacare by pushing single-payer health care. You could have did that. He didn't do that. Now, I had no illusions about Trump when he got in that office. I assumed the worst. I assumed he was going to be a maniac. The first 2 days, I was like, oh, man, I'm terrified. And then I started to think about it in a different way. If things get bad, maybe people will wake up. That was my thinking of it. I was like, God, don't start no wars. God, don't invade another country. Please don't murder a lot of people. But if things get bad at home, maybe people would wake up and say, whoa, these guys are doing things. We need to pay attention to this.
Who's these guys, though?
People, politicians, about political apparatus.
They're like nobodies. The visible government is nobodies. They're like nobodies.
Well, the visible government is, they're your, what's the word I'm looking for? They're your spokesmen of sorts. They're the guys who are, it's like the intermediaries. You have a capitalistic system. That capitalistic system depends on a certain amount of cash, meaning if that person wants to get elected, that person needs to raise a huge amount of money. Ultimately, that means that cash is the determining factor of what takes place with regards to policy. It's just the way the system is built in that way. Your political apparatus of the spokesman, it's either going to be pitchforks or dollars. You make a choice. Which one? If the public gets involved, you have pitchforks. If the public doesn't get involved, you have dollars. So it becomes this thing of how much pressure is there to push to bear on the political apparatus to affect your will on that system.
I'm so upset. I actually tweeted out that I wanted to see heads on spikes. I don't know when I got so bloodthirsty.
It's bringing out the revolution of sorts.
I'm like, I want to see some fucking heads on spikes. We have a death penalty in this country. A lot of people have been put to death. And yet you have people running around that I think should, at the very least, be behind bars.
Yes. It's an unfair system.
I don't literally want people to have their heads on spikes, but sometimes I think some of these motherfuckers need to have their heads on spikes. I swear to God.
I think
they'll get the point.
I think your feeling is the feeling that most people, or a lot of people, are feeling in the nation. I honestly do. I think on the right and on the left. I think you're seeing a certain amount of convergence around certain things on the left and the right with regards to like war policy and stuff like that. I think far right acknowledges something is wrong, but they're looking at the guy on the low end of the totem pole as being responsible, which makes no sense. You know, it's like the Mexican coming into the country is the actual problem. Those are the guys who are making the laws, and those are the guys who are keeping me down. That Mexican is not keeping you down. The left looks at it as concentrated wealth is the problem. And I agree on that. I honestly do think concentrated wealth is a problem. You're in a capitalistic society. Your range of decision space is determined by how much cash you have. So, you know, it's you have all these people working these, 50 hours a week. They're not paying attention to politics. They're trying to keep their kids and make a life. So yeah, I agree with you, man, on the heads on spikes. This kind of emancipatory violence of sorts. The question becomes, what happens on the second day of the revolution? Slasher of Zizek makes this point. What happens on the second day of V for Vendetta? Like, you see this emancipatory moment where all of these people out there and they're wearing the Guy Fawkes mask and they're blowing up the government. And then he's like, I'd sell my mother to see what happens on day 2. I agree. What happens on day 2? You get those heads on spikes. What happens on day 2? I'm asking you. At this point, I'm asking you. I'm curious.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know either. I think revolution.
I'm just a lawyer. Don't ask me these questions.
Don't ask me these type of questions. All right. I don't see any other questions, so I'm gonna call it a night. Look, I kept you on for a long time, but I've enjoyed this conversation, which is why I kept you on for a long time. I appreciate it.
I like talking to people. Once I sit in this chair, I never get up.
At this point, I just go. It wasn't a chair. I just have that. I just go. No, I enjoyed the conversation. It was easy and free flowing. I like conversational interviews as opposed to just kind of throwing questions at people.
Yeah.
I like to see what they're made of and what they're thinking. Usually no judgment. There are things that they get into because I want to understand, but there's no judgment.
Oh, Jamarl, you know, if we actually if you were at my house and I made a couple of cocktails, the conversation would be even better.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the one that that one probably shouldn't be videotaped. A friend of mine, I told him, I said, "Hey, dude, you should bring you on for a thing." He says, "No, I say things sometimes that shouldn't be videotaped."
Like what?
Exactly. I was like, what do you say that shouldn't be videotaped? I've known Jaleel for God knows how long.
I have told some jokes that probably should not be repeated in I've gotten better about repeating jokes.
Let's have some off-color jokes. My wife and I have this thing.
I have a theory, Jamarl, that everybody tells racist jokes.
I think everybody tells racist jokes too. That's what I was
they're funny. I'm sorry, they're funny.
They're funny when they're not intentionally racist, if that makes sense. It's like
some of them are really fucking mean. Who are we kidding? All right, but you're like, okay. But people in public are like, oh, you know, and I'm like, oh, just get a grip.
It's like, oh, my wife and I. Yeah, man, my wife and I can be bad. It's like, oh, that's so racist. Neither one of us have a racist bone in our body, but they're funny. They're funny. It's like you're dealing with stereotypes, and you're like, you have this person beside you, it's a friend or a loved one, and you're saying something that's so racist, and you know it's so racist, and you know if you out.
You know what the best icebreaker for like breaking the racial ice for me is you start telling each other racial jokes that attack the other person's race. You know, I know this sounds awful, but I'm Korean and Jared's Jewish, and when you see us go to town, it's just like, oh, I can't believe he said that. You know, and I'm like, okay, that was bad. But
I gotta be honest,
those conversations probably would not be recorded.
Because I think it would be taken off color, like they wouldn't necessarily, like we might be in the car or something like that, and one of us may say something, and both of us know that it's like, God, that sounds so racist. And we're not, like I said, we don't have a racist bone in our body. That's the only reason why I think it's funny. Like, it's one thing if
we all have racist bones in our bodies. Come on now.
Well, I think being raised in a particular country, you're raised in a particular way, but you fight that. Like you rail against that. Like,
yeah, of course. You try to be like a rational person. You know, but I was talking to somebody about this, and they're like, I don't have a racist bone in my body. And I'm like, all right. When you see, I'm gonna go to bat for my women here, for my fellow women here. When you see a blonde woman, do you subconsciously maybe think something about her abilities? Maybe even on a subconscious level? Probably.
Oh, like a dumb blonde?
There's a lot of conditioning that women, and in particular, I mean, like people tell blonde jokes. So I just don't think it's true that we can be this complete blank slate. Because we are the sum total of all the messaging and all this other crap.
No, that's true.
You know? So as long as you recognize it, it's fine.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
You know.
Yeah, and I do think there's a difference between a joke where, how can I say this? I'm trying to think of something my wife and I would say where it would be, if somebody else heard it, they were like, oh my God, that's horrible. Even though both of us know each other well enough to where.
No, I know what you're saying. You're talking about like the situation where something's funny but no harm is meant versus like,
right, or somebody actually just being openly racist, they mean exactly what they're saying.
But here's the thing, Jamarl, is just like, here I go talking about white people again. I think white people do that all the time. They're like, they say something and people are like, that's racist, and they're like, what did I say? You know, because like one time I was like minding my own business and some guy was like, I really like Oriental women. You know, Oriental women. And I'm like, this was a long time ago. And I remember thinking, I'm feeling mildly irritated. But I'm like, I don't think he meant any harm. I think
no. I don't think. Yeah. It depends on what it is. Like, you know, I'm not on the, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt on this. Like, sometimes when you're interacting with other races, they're on eggshells.
I know.
I hate the eggshells thing. It's like, dude, just be a person. I'm not going to take something wrong. I give an example. a friend, we were playing chess one day. It was white guy and a black guy, and they're having an argument. And I forget, I don't even remember what they were arguing about. And the black guy was like, why is it every time that we argue, the jury's calling it an argument? And the white guy looks at me like, what the fuck just happened?
What? Now, I missed that. What?
So two guys are playing chess, white guy and a black guy.
Oh, okay.
They're having a conversation. In the midst of the conversation, the black guy looks up and says, the white guy says, well, look, I don't want to argue about this. And the black guy says, why is it every time that a black man says something, it's an argument? Now, the white guy looks at me like, what the fuck just happened? I'm looking at him like, I have no idea what just happened.
You know, that's interesting. No Do you think, Jamaro, that there are cultural differences, slight cultural differences based on... So, okay, I'm going to say something. God, I hope people don't, like, take this out of context.
Go for it. Let's get racist. Let's do it.
All right, in Orlando, okay, which is like the vacation mecca of Florida, there's this ride called the Slingshot. Have you heard about this?
No.
It's really scary. It's just there's two people at a time, and you sit there, okay? And it's really tall. And what you do is it's like a slingshot. The whole thing comes down, and you're sitting in there. You're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and it lets go, and it goes. And there's a live cam on there. And if you look at Orlando Slingshot on Facebook, they have all these videos of people screaming their heads off, and it's hysterical. But what I noticed is that people have different ways of responding. Culturally, some people are just more expressive about their fear.
Yeah.
And some people are just like, oh dear, I think I just soiled myself. And I'm like, you must be from the Midwest. Right. You know what I mean? And other people are like, ah! So
like,
but the thing is, I'm like looking at this and I'm trying to keep an open mind. I'm like, are there sort of like cultural commonalities? Because I know that as an Asian person, there are cultural commonalities of Asian people that I'm willing to talk about without it being racist.
Right.
Like Koreans drink. I'm sorry.
Drink? Drink what? You mean alcohol?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right? I didn't know Koreans were alcoholics.
Oh, yeah. No. So, Koreans are just kind of like, nice to meet you, and they won't even touch you. They're like, they're like, oh, hello. And it's just like, hi. And they're like, oh, hello. And then they're like, oh, would you like to have some sake and maybe go to karaoke bar? And then, you're like doing shots. And then before you know it, you're like, whoa! And then it's just like a different person.
Is there a way of opening up?
Oh, yeah. We are best friends now. So, not all cultures are kind of like that. It's just very formal and reserved. And then when you start drinking, it's just like, you're my brother from another mother.
You're my best friend. Yeah, you're my best friend.
Right, but those are sort of like broad cultural characteristics. And I could talk about that, and people can talk about that, and I won't think they're being racist. Do you think there are broad cultural characteristics?
Yeah, there are. I honestly do think they are. Like, I think African Americans tend to be a little bit more expressive. Now, that expressiveness gets, how can I say this? Like, that expressiveness sometimes gets misinterpreted as being hostile or something to that effect. It's almost like cultural differences in the way people respond to things. My wife and I always say, if we had a kid, we want that kid to be expressive. Like, we don't want that kid to be not ridiculous and not over the top, but look, how I do my videos, that's me. That's me in the real world. They can be intense. They can be a little bit intense to interact with. Now, I always look at that as a positive trait, because if I had a kid, I would want that kid to be open with their emotions. Not ridiculous. At the very least, being willing to laugh, being willing to smile, being willing to kind of exude a certain amount of affection to others. I think that is an immensely positive trait. So yeah, I do think there's certain broad characteristics, the openness thing. I give you an example. When we play chess, some of the stuff that we say to each other is abysmal. Like, it gets rough. Like, particularly when you just have a bunch of men around. When you add a woman or two to the mix, it tones down a little bit. But when it's 3 or 4 guys and you're in this barbershop atmosphere where these guys are just talking so much shit to one another.
Is that kind of like when some like people play golf and you're trying to like concentrate on your swing, and somebody's like, like heckling you in the back and trying to break your concentration? Is it like
think
that?
of it as think of it as you're playing chess and the other guy is like, yeah, man, I knew you were my victim when you first sat down. Or they might say, feel my muscles. One guy, Big D, he would be like, feel my muscles, you know, call me Big Daddy, or this is Big Yum's opening. Like this type of bravado, or going full well into the game is like, I could play chess until I start playing this guy. This guy's just a bum. Look at him. He's about to make a bad move. This is a bad move that's coming up. Just ragging on the person. Rod, one of the guys we used to play, Rod would say stuff like, I'm going to fuck you. He's like, oh, dude, come on, man. It's like, bro, fully back, dude.
Well, you know, the thing is, you know, you're trying to break the other person's concentration.
Right. You're picking at his ego. It's like you're picking at that person's.
Well, it's a game of great concentration, you know.
It is. It is. That's the odd part about it. These guys are talking so much shit to you while you're playing. You're in the middle of the game.
You got to be able to get in that zone and just be like,
oh yeah. At a certain point, you ignore it. I grew up in a barbershop, so to me, it's like when I was 12, yes, it would bother me. When I was, man, I remember one day I went home crying. Like it was that bad. When I was like, I think I was like 13. I went home pissed, like absolutely pissed, and just ragging on you. And it was having like a bad day where you couldn't win a game. So like game after game after game, you're losing, and they're just talking shit to you over and over and over again. And you know, you have these grown men just ragging on you. You go home. You suck it up. Don't get me wrong. You don't show it there. You just wait till you get home. And you're just like, motherfuckers.
I wonder, Jamaro, that if that developed as a way to train young men of color to develop a very thick skin earlier on for what is out there. Because if you go out there and somebody says something to you, that is not the time to break down and cry.
You know, it's funny when you hear I listen to clips from those guys in the 60s, like James Baldwin. Love James Baldwin. James Baldwin and Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. And it's fascinating to hear their own words on this stuff, and how Martin Luther King in one of his speeches talked about, because we don't look at these guys as real people. They were real people. You know, they had the same feelings and emotions like us. Martin Luther King was, Cornel West talks about Martin Luther King being dragged into a jail cell, and how they were using like dogs to attack the guy, like to threaten him and act like they were going to let dogs bite him and all this other stuff. And Martin Luther King comes out shaking like legs, like jello. And is saying, I'm doing this for my people. Now, I would imagine Martin Luther King was terrified. I would imagine he was, you know, scared shitless. He didn't necessarily know what these cops were going to do to him. But ultimately, he endured it. I would imagine when he got home, he might have even cried just as a grown man having to deal with this particular experience. And look, that was one of his speeches where he was having this conversation saying how one of the young men heckled him. Like, and he said he was at home and he was kind of like hurt by the experience. Like, he was like, how dare that young man heckle me on Martin Luther King? He said, I started thinking about it. And I started thinking maybe this young man has a point. And he starts kind of, in his speech, he's delving into how he feels about it. And just as a human being saying, I do have a presence of mind that I'm Martin Luther King. I do have a presence of mind of what I've been through. How dare this young guy do this? But at the same token, yes, this guy has a point. That's a person. Like, that's not this kind of fixed identity that we think this person is or who just had a dream. This was an actual living person who had feelings and thoughts and dealt with difficulty and stress.
MLK Jr. poops like the rest of us. Come on now.
Yeah, right. But we don't look at it that way. We look at these guys as kind of icons of history, not as actual real people.
Constipated. He's like, oh.
He's a real person.
Where's the toilet paper?
I got to be honest. I think the talking shit thing just boiled down to these guys are playing chess and these guys are just being pretty expressive when they're playing chess. I think they just try to win.
You know, people are just people, and you know, we're called upon to do things. All the Bernie people, they rose to the occasion, and
you did too. I mean, I don't want to undercut that. Like, I don't remember any other lawyer bringing the DNC case. I don't remember anybody else kind of saying, "Wait a minute,
there's no money in it."
But that's kind of my point.
Buy your book,
right? But that's kind of my point. Most of it, when you're saying lawyers are crap, cops are crap, all this other stuff, a lot of this stuff boils down to the profit motive. Well, I think cops are crap, but a lot of this stuff boils down to profit motive. That's all I'm saying. Like, if there's no profit in it, then there's not necessarily somebody to actually do it. You guys said, screw the profit. This is something just what's right.
Yeah,
this has to do with
I mean, I filed it on behalf of somebody. I filed a constitutional class action There's no money in that either, but it's a very, very important issue about how you can't file a lawsuit anymore. Everything goes to arbitration. And this is a case about arbitration. It's really scary. You think about
that is terrifying.
Think about any constitutional right, freedom of speech, whatever. They can force you to arbitrate that and pay $750 a day.
What's this? Oh, right there.
But nobody's bringing these lawsuits, Jamarl, because there's no money in them, you know?
But there shouldn't be.
Buy the book.
Arbitration is terrifying. I mean, you have the situation where a company buys an arbitrator. If that arbitrator wants to keep his job, he's going to essentially side with the corporation. So 90-something% of the time he sides with the corporation.
The whole thing is a joke.
Concentrated wealth is terrifying. Concentrated wealth is terrifying. People keep acting like the government is trying to break down that door and goes to get them. At the very least, public interest or the government, you have some say-so in regards to what takes place. In private enterprise, you have none. You have none. A single entity, one or two people, or a small collection of people own massive amounts of stuff, and they can keep you out of it. They can call the cops with your tax dollars to beat the shit out of you. All this other stuff. It's insane. It's insane. I wish there was a fund that would go after stuff like this. Like, yes, there's no money in it, but they're like a people's fund or people.
Every time you have something like that, it gets co-opted. I think the ACLU started out like that. The ACLU was an amazing, but now they've gotten somewhat politicized.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. I think George Soros dumps a lot of money on the ACLU, and it's like, bye-bye. So,
that's the end of that.
You know. Well, I mean, it's just that they get co-opted. Everything gets co-opted. But anyway, we had a long talk, and I better get home here.
I appreciate this. This was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun. We should do it again.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Everyone. Thank Elizabeth Beck. This was awesome. I appreciate this. You have a very good, awesome fucking night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. I would like to thank Elizabeth Beck. She's been absolutely awesome. She's sat here for God knows how long. This conversation just bombarded her with questions and so forth. Yeah, guys, I hope everything was good. Was it a Jamarl and Elizabeth comedy show? She is funny. She's hilarious. She's absolutely hilarious. Yeah, she's cool people, man. She really is. All right, guys, I am going to end this. Okay, if I don't break my set. If you enjoy the content, oh, juice, it's all fucked up. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, write, subscribe, and of course, you can always support on Patreon. Thanks, everyone. I know this was a long one. I don't know how long it went, but it was a long one. But I thought it was fun. So, night, everyone.